my hatred of clowns. So yeah, I'll go ahead and go with that one first. Then as far as just invoking a just an actual really just scary experience, I would have to say the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, I've got it on my list, dude. I've got it on my list.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre was yeah. I mean, as far as even the time that it was made, that really pushed a lot of boundaries and broke a lot of barriers in the whole like slasher horror film kind of thing. And it was really like visceral and psychological kind of as well. It was really, really a messed up movie. It really was. And then all of the like urban legend and stuff that actually surrounded the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because you got to remember at the time, like there wasn't like the internet and social media and all of that stuff. And I just remember like a lot of weird, just like rumors and weird things that are around the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And then, you know, I lived in Texas for a while, you know, when I was young and, you know, before we moved to Kansas. And so I remember people talking about.
You had a bit of the Jones in you, man. I knew you had a bit of the Jones in you, dude.
Yes, us Texans have an odd. There's just something in the water in Texas, I think. But I remember like people talking about there was a family that was selling human beef jerky on the side of the road and somehow tying it to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And then they have the house out there, you know, that it was filmed in, and just a lot of crazy stuff. So that's what, you know, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre invokes a lot of.
That's a disturbing one. That's probably one of the most disturbing movies I've seen, I would think. I think that's got to be up there with one of the most, disturbing. The bit in the attic.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's just, it's like that stays with you, man. That doesn't go away. You know, that doesn't go away. You know, another one, it got remade recently. And my mum, she's listening now. I blame her. I was far too young to be watching this as well, Scott, right?
That's what I'm saying.
I just got out of hospital at the time. We were staying at my auntie's house, my great auntie's house, and we're sitting there having a lovely big dinner. I said, well, we put a film on. And I, awesome. Excellent. Young kid staying away for the night, putting a movie on, sleepover. And they put on this movie called The Hills Have Eyes. Well, I never. But Scott, not only did The Hills Have Eyes, I didn't get to sleep for about a month after it. That affected me, man. Eat the babies. Oh, dearie me. Yeah.
Yes, that's it's a good one. That's a good one.
It's a disturber. And Scott, we were late getting onto YouTube. Something had glitched on the back end. It wasn't even Streamlabs. It was a YouTube studio. So you'll have missed us saying that we're kind of going to open up with our horror movie moments, if you hadn't guessed already. I've had The Shining, Scotty, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We've had The Hills of Eyes. But we're going to get your films as well. So both the TFR chat room and YouTube, you can throw them out there. Tag us. We'll see it. What's your next one then, Scott? I've had two. Come on, your turn.
Okay. Maybe the original Friday the 13th. Good old Freddy. Yeah. And I know a lot of those 80s horror movies, they like started going with.
Yeah, but the one with Freddy where the tongue went down the phone. That like
Yeah.
I think it might have been the first one. It was
I think it
horrendous.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's the thing with those with a lot of the '80s horror movies. They started making sequels, and then they just kept making. They just kept making them, and they got worse and worse and worse as time went on. And so usually it's like the original first or second one that are like the best, and then after the third one, it's like, nah, don't. You know. But yeah, the original Friday the 13th, that's another one. Trying to think of some other stuff.
Halloween itself. But
Yeah,
yeah, but not so much the later ones, like the early Halloween, you know.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, and
Oh, my mother's made a good shout here. Pearly coming in with, are you ready for it? Rosemary's Baby. Oh.
oh,
Now, wasn't that made? Didn't they make that in the same building as John Lennon lived, or did John Lennon move in there after they had filmed it there? I'm sure there's something to do with that in the Dakota building. Quite sure of it. Quite sure. I know that's why I came up with that there, but that's a good one. That's like a weird one.
Mm-hmm.
Was that Kubrick?
No,
Was that him? Who made Rosemary's Baby? I'm gonna check that out here. No, it was Polanski, wasn't it?
yeah, I think it was.
Yeah. Rosemary's Baby. Roman Polanski. Less said about that one, the better. Talking of horror characters, yeah. Sometimes the monsters are in the real world, Scotty boy. But no, that's a good one. That's definitely a good one.
Mm-hmm. Let me think. It's just hard.
Oh, the Omen from the chat room. See how we are living. That's a good one.
That was starting to cross my mind for a second. The Omen. So yeah, definitely the Omen.
Now somebody Bam says The Last House on the Left from TFR chat room.
It rings a bell.
I've not heard of that one. No.
Dude, I've seen so many, like, just so many
random ones that you don't even remember. Yeah. But, you know, going back to The Omen, do you not think, well, I can tell you for me, Damien, again, there's another example of a really bloody, scary child. It shouldn't work, but it does.
Oh, remember Children of the Corn?
Oh, unfortunately, yeah. Big time, dude. Pet Cemetery.
Pet Cemetery.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've had a dark upbringing, Mr. Lopez, haven't we? Yeah.
All of the old Stephen King films that were made in the 80s, you know, it wasn't so much a horror movie. Well, maybe it was kind of a horror movie. I just remember that movie called Maximum Overdrive. It was like all the vehicles and machines were like coming to life or were possessed by something. I can't remember what the...
It rings a bell again, but I don't think I've actually seen it. I think I know what you're talking about, but not seen it.
It's like, I think Emilio Estevez was in it.
Okay. Bam's coming in with an Exorcist as well. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Exorcist.
We've had Lydia. Lydia's been on the Kev Baker show, and she actually, after watching The Hills Have Eyes, she says that she was like plagued by bad stuff. I don't even want to know any more on that. That's even creepier. And Lisa, big shout out to Lisa, big shout out to Lee, big shout out to Spooky Andy, big shout out to Nano. Thank you all for supporting the show. Means the world. But yeah, I'm as equally... See, I keep going back to The Hills of Eyes, and if you put those two creepy children from The Shining in it, along with Damien, I don't think I could watch that, dude. That's one horror movie I ain't watching.
Now, I liked one kind of like... Maybe it was like in the late 80s and starting in the 90s when you started getting kind of the genre of like sci-fi horror. And... Well, I would say that The Thing was an example of sci-fi horror, right? Because The Thing was like some alien thing that was killing everybody on that Antarctic base, right? And so I like stuff like that, like The Thing, and didn't remember, was it Event Horizon?
Yeah, you know, that's a really good movie. Really good movie, man.
It's a good movie,
Yeah.
you know. It's a horror.
Alien, dude. Alien as well, man.
Yeah, but you know, the dude gets all like possessed by some crazy, you know, alien entity or something like that. So I like that kind of stuff. Good.
I'll tell you, it's good. Let's see what else we got in here, Scotty boy. Somebody's come up with your one. The Wu-Tang Man says Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah.
You know what? A more modern one, or a more recent one, because we've kind of gone back in time. We've gone like retro. There's probably younger listeners poking each other in the ribs going, have you heard any of these movies? But The Conjuring. You know why that one's really good as well? Because it's got a real Dybbuk box at the heart of that story, you know? Big time. Big creepy woo, man.
It's a good shout. That was kind of the original sci-fi horror, you know, if you really think about it. I mean there was sci-fi horrors, but I mean, when I think of like the first really kind of crazy sci-fi horror, I think of Alien, because it brought that whole just like terror aspect to the whole thing. So yeah, definitely Alien. Good stuff there. Grew up watching that as well.
What else have I got on my list, man?
Well, yeah. What do you got? I'm trying to think.
Misery. Ooh, that's, you know, I don't know if I'd call it horror, but psychologically,
yeah, that's because I've been wanting to bring up movies, but I don't know if they would be classified as horror. But I think psychological horror.
I think they're the best types, dude.
Yeah, kind of.
Blair Witch messed me up, man. I didn't like that, even though I knew it was all hocus pocus and the rest of it. I like that style, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what else are people saying? Well, The Ring, Scott. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Prince of Darkness, says Leslie.
Oh.
Try to think of that one. The Devil's Advocate, not so much a horror, but a damn good kind of creepy one. It's the one where you've got, is it Al Pacino and Keanu Reeves, I think it is.
Yes,
yep.
I believe
so. Yeah, it is, yep. Your man's the devil, I'll tell you, that is pretty good, that one. I like that movie.
Now, you want to know a movie that really, really disturbed me because I'm already... all it did was increase my anxiety as I watched that movie. And it was a movie called Arachnophobia.
Oh, you've just made anyone scared of spiders in the audience have flashbacks of that uncomfortable movie, man. Even if they didn't watch it, everyone's just sat up in the chair. You better believe it, dude. Hey! There we go. Thank you, Costa, our newest member of the Elite Wookiee Pack. Yes, indeedy. But yeah, definitely, man.
Now, you know who made a series of really, really just disturbing horror films? Rob Zombie.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen like The Devil's Rejects or House of a Thousand.
But not really been a big purveyor of them. But I know because of his like Clyde Lewis talking about him, checked him out, seen what that was all about. Yep.
Oh man.
Are you recommending a dive in, or is it not for the faint-hearted?
I'm just saying, if let's just say he tapped into that old Texas Chainsaw Massacre sort of thing, but just kind of taking it to the next level of just craziness. It's some disturbing stuff.
Now,
it's just...
Sorry, Scotty. Sorry, I didn't even mean to cut you off there, man, at all. I'm going to have to check that out. What's the name of one of them so I can write it down?
I would just watch the
Is there
Devil's
any you can
Reject.
say on air with without triggering things? They're that grim. I'm joking, dude. Lots of shouts for Tremors in the chat room.
Tremors.
That's what, yeah.
Like Tremors.
The Birds. The Hitchcock movies weren't good, man. Psycho. Shit, you can't have a horror movie discussion without Psycho been in there somewhere, right? No, I think was really good with Psycho though. Doesn't often work. And a movie that big, you should never try and have like franchises running off it, right? But Bates Motel, it was like young Norman growing up when his mum was still alive, soon to be, up in the chair in the attic. And I tell you what, the wee guy that played the part in that, it's like he was literally channeling Norman Bates. It was creepy, dude. Really, really creepy. So anyone who hasn't seen that and you like a good creeper, I would definitely recommend the Bates Motel. A couple of seasons of it, man. Pretty good.
Justin in the chat shouting out House of a Thousand Corpses. So yeah, I would watch House of a Thousand Corpses and the Devil's Rejects. House of a Thousand Corpses is the first one, and I guess the Devil's Rejects would be the second one. But you don't necessarily have to watch them in order like that, you know. And I believe he actually made a third one. I think it was called 3 from Hell. So I haven't got a chance to watch that yet. But
Wu-Tang Man, it says the mist ruined me for a week. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. We're gonna be back after the break, folks. We've got our story just about coming from down under. Not quite yet. But we'll be back in these next 3 short minutes. And we've got so much woo on the way. Oh, this is going to be a cracker. Don't go anywhere. There we go. And folks, apologies for what happened at the start. I had no idea that the YouTube studio hadn't kicked in. Scotty can tell you. I've got like 3 different browsers open, multiple tabs on them. I've got music playing, I got a chat room, we've got the Streamlabs, we've got the Vault for TFR, and it was the last thing I went and looked at, Scott, typically, and I was seeing people in the chat room going, I'm thinking, nah, something's gone wrong here. But all they missed was the Wookiee Cave shout out. So, not too bad at all. Yeah. In fact, some might say they're glad they missed all of that part. So, hey, we're here now. We're live. But, yeah, the whole movie's idea, I don't know what really brought it into my mind. I don't know what it was.
I like it because it makes me rack my brain and think about like which movie stood out to me. Because like I said, I've watched so much stuff when I was little. I mean, like so many scary movies. I mean, we didn't even mention
so many more, dude. So many.
Yeah, I mean, there's oh my god.
I mean, with the whole Hammer House, I don't know if you had that in America when I was growing up, 80s. That used to be a thing, you know. You used to have your Hammer House of Horrors movie on a Friday night before the TV went off. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Scary stuff. Peter Cushing's as Dracula. He done it, man. He was the dude. Rest his soul. I hope he's not here anymore if I'm saying R.I.P. Of course he's here. He's a vampire. Hey! You'll have to hear 1,000, right?
Yeah.
Leslie says Clyde Lewis is on a different level. Clyde Lewis is absolutely on a different level, and that's why I love him, and that's why I don't mind that he calls me Dave. Yeah, we've got Clyde Lewis to thank for Dave Baker.
Now Clyde is a man who knows his horror movies.
Dude, an aficionado.
Aficionado, yes. Like we're just mere amateurs.
He was the Toxic Crusader, man.
There we go.
Literally, he was the voice of the Toxic Crusader. So I mean, yeah, big time. He's your horror guy.
Yeah.
And I will be making a presentation about Loch Ness next week.
Okay.
Before Clyde Lewis comes on with his, I'm like his fluffer. Wow, warm-up act for Clyde, man. The glorious Dave Baker, I'm telling you.
Look at Dave Baker moving on up.
Yeah, I'm unfortunately becoming that Nessie guy I said I hoped I'd never be. Hmm.
It's okay, man. Just embrace it.
Embrace the Nessie. Yes.
Embrace the Nessie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Silence of the Lambs, great shout.
Ooh,
Disturbing movie.
yes.
Disturbing. Yeah, big time, dude.
Stop, man.
Yeah. We could
Anthony-
probably do this for 3 hours. No, I'm only joking. We've got plenty to get into. Luna is still typing away. So we're still waiting for that to come in. We've got we've got Spooky Andy, not Super Andy, although he is super. But we've got Spooky Andy's missing 411 stuff to get to as well. But we'll probably get to that maybe next segment, because I haven't dug up the sound clips that I need just yet. But I'll get them. They're really easy to find. So here we go, Scotty boy. There we go. We're back. We're live this pre-Halloween Freaky Friday. And don't forget, next week we're going to have Kevin Nacy here on our Freaky Friday special. He is going to deliver some of the finest woo I think we'll probably ever hear on a Freaky Friday. And of course, myself and Scott are here today. We've been chilling out. We've been kind of talking about some of our favourite movies. It's one of these topics where we're going to keep on remembering things as the night progresses. We had somebody during the break. Great shout. Silence of the Lambs, man. I mean,
yes.
yeah, big time. So, how about, right, Mr. Scotty boy? We take our first dive over into this new website that I've found.
Okay. Sounds like a wonderful.
Yeah. Now, this is all thanks to Jason. If you're out there listening, Jason, this is really down to you, because yesterday when I brought up the Folklore Thursday hashtag, it led me eventually to a site called Folklore Thursday. And this here is just full of absolutely crazy woo. And I've picked out one story to start off with because it kind of links in. Well, it doesn't kind of link in, it definitely links in with the guest that we had on Warrior Mode with Bill Bean over on YouTube at the weekend, if you've seen that. If you didn't, we had on a WCW wrestler, the Maestro. He was on with us. And look at Scotty there. He remembers his Maestro, man. Yeah.
I remember WCW, man.
Good guy, lovely guy, man. Still trains some of the wrestlers today.
Awesome.
But he also acts. And he mentioned that he had acted in Sleepy Hollow. So one of the first stories that I found today on this website was the dreaded Headless Horseman and the legend of Sleepy Hollow. So I thought that'd be a kind of good one to introduce ourselves to this pretty spectacular trove of woo, my friend. It's like a bounty of woo that we found here.
It's like we hit the bottom of the money pit at Oak Island, right?
We did indeed, Scott. We got there first, right? It's starting again soon, man. I am so like I just can't wait for this next season to start. It's going to be absolutely epic. I've got high expectations, Mr. Lopez. I really do.
Nice.
Yes. So then, the Headless Horseman captures the imagination like nothing else at Halloween. Regional American history and urban legend influences and interpretation of this apparition more than supposed. Now, the legend of Sleepy Hollow, written by Washington Irving, was published in 1820, approximately 42 years after the end of the American Revolution, and 8 years after the War of 1812. Scars from the war had not completely healed from collective memory. Now, although Headless Horsemen exist in Irish, German, and other folklores, Irving's story traces its origins to a mixture of the bloody American Revolution and the existing Dutch traditions of the New York region. It is that connection between the regional legend and its basis in history that creates an historic urban legend. You liking this site already, Scott? It's got it all, isn't it?
Like, yes, I'm quite impressed with the Folklore Thursday.
Dig in the woo, man. Dig in the woo. So it says most of the folklore of early America was so fresh and raw that many cultivated writers rejected it in favour of the more romantic tales and ballads of Europe. Yet Washington Irving, who clearly loved the antique and quaint, was one of the first to recognise the romance in the tall tales and rough, practical jokes of the frontier. So, born in 1783 in New York and dying in 1859 in Tarrytown, a mere 0.66 miles, nice numbers there, from Sleepy Hollow. Have you ever seen that been written anywhere before, Scotty? Yes, this location was 0.66 miles from.
Oddly, very detailed and specific.
Very specific, right? I'm
like half
you.
a mile. You would think you would just round it to half a mile.
Exactly, dude. Close by, you know, a walk away. So it says from Sleepy Hollow, and Irving was very much part of the landscape which he wrote. As a familiar to most readers, Irving's classic story of the legend of Sleepy Hollow goes as follows. A Connecticut teacher named Ichabod Crane accepted the position of headmaster in the village of Sleepy Hollow, New York. Now, a Dutch stronghold in New York. The Dutch were perceived to be a people fond of ghost stories told around hearths and in the company of others. Sleepy Hollow was portrayed as being populated by both living and supernatural elements. In fact, the remote hamlet seemed to have fallen under some sort of enchanted spell. Poor Ichabod is prone, I'm probably pronouncing his name absolutely horrendously, but you just deal with it. We'll call him Icky. Is prone to believe in takes of the supernatural, getting his fill at the shared firesides of local houses. And it was New England custom of the time that local families provided rotational board and keep for their school teachers. During one of those days, Ichabod learns from Sleepy Hollow's most troubling tale. The ghost of a Hessian soldier who lost his head during the American Revolution. The troubled ghost remained in search of his head and frequented the Old Church Road and yard where he was believed to have been buried. Now, as fate would have it, Scotty boy, yes, as fate would have it, Ichabod, as a student. Now, before we go any further, what are you making of this so far, dude? The soldier just like a, what would you call it? A residual of a soldier just roaming about looking for his head. It's disturbing.
I'm liking it. It's good stuff. Definitely some good lore behind the story as well to make, you know, it's always nice to have a good story behind a paranormal sort of thing.
You're right, dude. Big time, man. Big time. I'm gonna be getting you to pick a story out of this website at some point as well, bro. There's so much in here. Like I say, it's a smattering. It's a smorgasbord, as Joe Joseph would say. So,
Utopia.
Absolutely, anything abundant, whatever, man. Poor Icky is prone to believe in. No, I had that bit. Yeah, as fate would have it, Ichabod has a student, the lovely Katrina Van Tessel, the only child of a prosperous farmer named Baltus Van Tessel. Ichabod imagines himself in love, but whether his affection stems from the flirtatious beauty or her fortune is a bit more difficult to ascertain. Katrina is also the object of the local lad's attention. The athletic and virile Brom von Brunt. It'd been better if it had been Werner von Braun, wouldn't it? Who is also known as Brom Bones. Now, when Brom learns that Ichabod has decided to woo Katrina, Brom defends his own interests. In fact, the fact that the scholarly and gangly Ichabod refuses to be drawn into physical confrontation in the manner of the frontier with his fists, forcing Bronn to resort to other means to drive the Yankee schoolmaster away. Now there comes a time when Ichabod receives an invitation to party at the Van Tassels. He leaves somehow disappointed by Katrina. Alone on the eerie road home, his imagination starts to run wild. He passes Major Andre's hanging tree, the Revolutionary War participant, on the British side. Another haunted landmark. Now, near that disturbing tree, he spies a figure who fails to respond to his greeting. The figure, mounted on a big, dark steed, falls in behind Ichabod, and the teacher tries to shake him off, but to no avail. Before long, he realizes the rider has no head on his shoulders, but carries it on the saddle before him. Confronted by this horrible spectre, Ichabod urges his horse on as fast as the old horse can go. They all reach the churchyard almost at the same time, and beyond is a bridge which local legend claims the headless horseman does not cross. Ichabod manages to cross safely, but he makes the mistake of looking back when he reaches the other side. The apparition throws his head at Ichabod, knocking him off his horse. So the following morning, Ichabod's horse returns to the farm, and all that is found of Ichabod is his hat and a smashed pumpkin. Whether the teacher ran off or was captured by the headless horseman was the point of much local debate, and thus ends Washington Irving's tale. But does Irving's story have its origins in either history or regional folklore? The answer is yes to both.
Oh.
Exactly. See, this is good, deep woo, man. It is a known fact that Hessian mercenary soldiers fought the British during the Revolution, and the area near Sleepy Hollow was contested ground where two relatively important battles were fought: the battles of Manhattan and White Plains. September 17th, 1776, the answer to 1984. That's what happens when you watch too much Alex Jones. You can't see that without thinking it's the answer to 1984, Scott, right? General William Howe ordered a regiment of Hessian mercenaries under Colonel von Donop into the Battle of Manhattan. The Americans fled in disarray, some say terror, at the oncoming Hessians. Now, reports of Hessians bayoneting retreating, surrendering American soldiers at Brooklyn Heights were widely believed to have added to the already existing terror surrounding Hessian mercenaries. A British officer, whose name has been lost to history, later recounted, "Our Hessians and our brave Highlanders gave no quarter, and it was fine to see, a fine sight to see, with what alacrity, or they dispatched the rebels with their bayonets." Alacrity, Scott? I think so, right?
Yeah, alacrity, I guess. Yeah,
Never heard. It's old world, man. It's words we don't use anymore.
works.
You see, we use things like cray and, amaze balls, adorbs, things like that.
Yes, it is one of those old worldy words,
So,
Kev.
Scott, have you ever heard of these buggers before, the Hessians?
The Hessians.
No.
It sounds familiar, but I'm not exactly sure who
So
they
it
were.
says General Howe, again, let loose his Hessians on... They sound like berserkers or something, man, don't they? They sound like...
That's what I'm saying. It sounds like these are like these mercenary shock troops or something that are sent in to terrorize people and kind of act as like kind of a psychological sort of to bring that kind of a terror, a psychological warfare kind of thing.
It
with
said
how
there was Highlanders in there, so that's my ancestors. You know they knew how to fight, man. You know it.
Yeah.
So General Howe again let them loose. He let the dogs out on October 28th in White Plains, New York. Now, after brutal battles, the Americans retreated. On October 31st, both armies regrouped, and General William Heath wrote, "An artillery shell took off the head of a Hessian artilleryman." It's quite possible this is the event that prompted the origins of some of the local lore that Washington Irving encountered. It is widely believed that the unfortunate Hessian was buried at the Old Dutch Churchyard in Sleepy Hollow, about 9 miles from White Plains. So we're finding it's like bits of factual stories. Okay, they've yarned it, but it's pretty interesting. It's quite possible that Washington Irving drew upon both history and local legend to create the legend of Sleepy Hollow. While headless horsemen are known in Europe prior to the settling of the United States and the American Revolution, the headless horseman of Sleepy Hollow has captured the collective imagination and has been doing so since it was first published in 1823. Of course, the Disney movie popularized it all in 1949, and nevertheless, this melding of history and folklore created an early form of urban legend that is celebrated to this day. And I ask you, my good scholarly brother-in-woo, Mr. Lopez, would a story that has been on the go for over 200, well, yeah, coming up 200 odd years that story's been on the go, right? Ballpark. When it has that much popularity, we talk about tulpas and things like that, dude.
It's not to say.
Is it enough to make a headless horseman?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. We're locked into synchronicity here because I was thinking the exact same thing. It was like, well, regardless, this has been this urban legend and this story that has been talked about for a long time. You know, it's kind of, you know, our most sort of modern equivalent to something like that would be like the Slender Man and stuff like that, you know. But back then it was the same sort of thing. You had these urban legends and these tales that are told, and these sort of entities or creatures that are these, you know, supernatural beings that are being talked about in these tales. They sort of they gain a life of their own, right? But as you can see, it did stem from something that actually happened, right? I mean, there was a dude that really did lose his head in the Revolutionary War, one of these Hessian soldiers, and he was buried at that church, you know, at Sleepy Hollow.
That's bizarre, dude.
You know, it just goes to show that a lot of these stories, it's just like we said, they're based in some fact.
Yep, that was another thing I was going to get to there, man. We've always, like, said, how factual are they, you know?
Yeah, because, you know, people could just say, oh, well, the Headless Horseman, it's just urban legend. It's just like a Mother Goose story, you know, something like that.
Mother Goose, I love it. Keep your Mother Goose to yourself. I'm having none of it.
Yeah.
Oh.
But
keep
as you
mind
can see,
no. Keep looking. Pressing the wrong buttons again, dude.
Come on, man.
Exactly, Joe.
But yeah, I mean, it just shows that a lot of these stories do have some basis in fact and something that legit happened, you know. So very interesting stuff, man.
Yes,
and
indeed.
I think there's something to it. There probably is a headless horseman ghost And not just there. I mean, there's probably.
Listen,
I mean,
you get
it could
white ladies everywhere, right? So why can't you have a headless dude on a horse?
Exactly. I mean, how many guys who rode horses lost their head? Probably quite a few. Just saying. I mean, that was the main mode of travel back then. So.
Indeed.
And usually, if you were executed in battle or something like that, it was your head that was being detached from the rest of your body. Just saying.
Many times, yes. Far too popular for my liking. Now, I've sent one through to you, Scott. I don't know how it is, but it definitely jumped off the page at me. You'll see when you read the headline of it. You'll see why it jumped off the page at me kind of immediately.
All right, I'm loading it up here.
Yep, so we're just going rando lucky dip here. After the break, we'll get into Andy's missing 411 theory. And we can have a little talk about some strange 411s. But Scotty has one. He's got one. I think it's probably loaded up by now, is it?
Yes. How a cursed Victorian devil statue destroyed a Welsh church.
See what I'm saying? You see why that kind of gripped me? You can't really scroll past that when you're into the woo. I'm sorry.
No, you're correct. Wow.
They're not too long either, Scott. They're just nice and snappy. They're not too bad, man.
Nice, yes. So it says the Swansea Devil is a 3-foot tall cursed sculpture which is said to have been responsible for destroying a church. The satanic statue's story begins at the end of the 19th century when the decision was made to rebuild Swansea's St. Mary's Church. The design was opened for tender, and the English architect Sir Arthur Blomfield, a designer of some renown, whose previous work included the Royal College of Music in London, won the contract. His completed church was unveiled to the public in 1896 and it won almost universal acclaim. But there was one architect from the city who felt seriously aggrieved that he had been overlooked for such a coveted job. According to local folklore, he immediately set about planning his revenge for the slight. He bided his time until a row of houses became available to buy next door to the church. He snapped them up to demolish them and create new offices of his own. On top of this red brick building.
That's a disturbing looking little thing. I'll send that over to the chat room over at TFR. Damn, dude. He's got the hoofs. He's got the hoofs, man. Oh, get past them. No, don't do hoofs.
The hoof feet, Kev, the hooven feet. Says on top of this red bricked building, which became occupied by a brewery, he placed a statue that became known to locals as Old Nick. Upon unveiling the Swansea Devil, which stared directly at the church, he prophesied that my devil will be able to leer and laugh, for at some future time he will see St. Mary's burning to the ground. In 1941, that's exactly what happened. The church, along with much of the Swansea city center, was razed to the ground during the Second World War. The Luftwaffe forever changed the face of the city during the devastating 3 days Blitz bombing campaign, which obliterated huge swaths of long-standing homes and businesses. But while there was wholesale destruction all around, the Swansea Devil and the building on which it stood was one of the few properties which some say miraculously survived unscathed. The devil simply sat there, smiling and stroking his chin, with his glass eyes fixed on the burning church as his prediction came true. The Swansea Devil continued to watch over House of God until 1962, when the brewery offices were demolished and the church was restored to its former glory. The demonic carving then seemingly vanished without a trace, and it was only thanks to some detective work in the 1980s from historian Raleigh Davies, backed by a campaign in the South Wales Evening Post newspaper, that it was tracked down to an antique dealer's garage in Gloucester where it was gathering dust. It was decided that the devil should be brought home, but by this time, the Quadrant Shopping Center had been built on the site of his old abode. Despite some resistance from local Christian groups, it was relocated to the shopping center.
Bug in the shops. Don't throw it out. We can use that.
Oh my God, where it remained hidden in plain sight in various locations throughout the building. So they were just moving it around. Well, let's just move this satanic statue around, just have it staring at random things here in the mall. Oh my God. It says, rarely staying in the same place for long, shoppers looking upward might unexpectedly catch a glimpse of the devil peering down at them as they went about their business. And he was sat at one point placed above the entrance, which gave him an unobstructed view of his hated church. In June 2019, it was decided that the Swansea Devil would be better cared for by the nearby Swansea Museum. Now looked after by experts, he will be restored to his former glory.
Oh, isn't that nice to know, eh? So you can spook up other places, man. Burn it! Send it away! Burn it! Put it on a fire! There's going to be lots of bonfires next week, Scott. That thing needs to go on it. I'm telling you. Yeah, we're on the break, dude. We're on the break. But, I mean, come on. The sensible thing to do with that thing would be to burn it and send it back to where it came from, right? We'll be back after the break. Don't go anywhere, folks. There we go. There we go.
Good woo. Some creepy ass statue.
Very creepy ass statue woo. Now, Scotty, I'm going to go and fill a cup of coffee. And we're going to do Luna's story next, because it's come through now. Then we'll do the Andy, and then we can come back to this website that is going to give us years worth of Freaky Fridays.
Yes.
I need to do what I've done with Phantoms and Monsters and find out who runs this website, get them on the show, and all will be good, man. All will be good. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm going to put on some tunes, big man, so you can look at this as well. Look what we've got here, Scott. Look. Oh, hang on. Not that one. Is it this one? It is that one. Look, we've got the black goo. We have the black goo. It's in there, dude. It's in there. So we'll have some tunes. There we go. There we go. There we go. We're back. Very disturbing noises I left on there by the sounds that it's got. It's called The Void. I thought, hey, The Void's got to be good for Freaky Friday, right?
It does sound like the void. It sounds like you're being sucked into the void. That you're falling into the
Falling
endless,
into the goo.
falling into the goo.
I never expected Trump charging into a goblin's. I never expected
know why I
Trump
went for
charging
that.
into
Not
a
that
goblin's
one, not
nest
that
to not
one.
get some goblin vomit and slop and blood on him. I don't want to see him kissing goblins. Spider ghosts are at least 25 years old.
Oh!
Okay.
Okay. Something's gone horribly wrong there, Sky Boy. I'm telling you. You know what?
It either went horribly wrong or horribly right. It depends on how you look at it.
It does. It really, really does. It's all relative, I suppose, really, isn't it? Here we go. Ready? I'm scared to even play a Wookiee noise on the way back here. Well, I can breathe a sigh of relief there because, you know, this soundboard, it seems to be taking on a mind of its own. Either that or the operator just is pretty crap. I'd say it's probably the operator, you know?
Hey, maybe your soundboard has been inhabited by an entity that is just trying to mess with you.
Well, before we get going again, special thank you to Spooky Andy, to Lisa, to Lee, to Nano Girl, and to Luna, because Luna's story is where we're going next, but big thank you to all you.
Yes.
But I think, you know, I feel like I should be standing up. I do think that, like we said, we had a drum roll. We need a drum roll for the chat room earlier on. Scott, it's almost like we've gone back in time. It's like somebody has materialized. They've just like breezed into the chat room. Johnny Whistles in the chat room.
What?
Oh, the OG. One of the OGs of the original, not even Freaky Friday, what started as Transatlantic Truth. Do you remember those days, Scott? Do you remember that? Remember them? No? Did you come on board after we had, like, sorted it out?
I think it was at just not too long afterwards, but
Yeah.
wow, Whistles.
The Whistler. He's probably gone away now. He's probably missed his big kind of shout out. Probably. But he can get it on the replay, man. He can get it on the replay. Yeah. Good to see you, Whistles. If you are still in there, awesome to see you, brother. That was like a blast from the past because I'm hardly on the Facebook anymore, Scotty boy. You realised that yesterday. You tried to message me, nothing. Used to be there. I used to be like, minute somebody messaged, whoo, jump right on it. Whoa, need to see that. Not so much anymore, man. Not so much. I'm proud of myself. I am a recovering Facebookaholic. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm quite impressed with that. And I don't see any Whistles in there anymore. Well, that's rather disturbing. I'm a bit miffed that we couldn't hold his attention for more than 10 minutes.
It was probably like, the boys look like they're doing good.
Yeah, right. I'm out of here. I'm going to watch something better now. I'm only joking. Whistles, we love you, brother. We love you. So, Scott, with the time difference with Australia, right? You've not been able to join me on one of the Down Under shows. I usually do it in daylight. Imagine it, daylight for the Kev Baker show. It's unheard of, dude. It is. But you may or may not, probably haven't had the chance to listen to my good friend Luna and some of her woo that she's got, brother. It is like some of the deepest woo. Always on point when we get together for the Down Under shows. And I haven't read. Remember I said to you she had a story to tell people? I've not even read it, Scott. I've just saved it so I get it the first time here with you and the audience. So I don't know where we're going next. I don't know if it's UFOs. I don't know if it's ghosts. I don't know what it is. But I can tell you right now, it's going to be good. It's going to take the woo to another level.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. And it's going to be awesome to get our raw reaction to.
That's why I didn't read it. It's always the best, right? It's like watching a trailer for a new movie for the first time or something. So It's the first time you're seeing it as well, Scott. You ready? Vodum.
Let's do it.
There we go. So then, this is Luna down under. A mob of us were on a bus travelling to a place called Lingalonga, inland and on the east coast of Australia. Just moving some. Where we were to be camping there for a couple of days as we turned to go into the long, dusty driveway. We all became silent, and the bus continued over a small, steep bridge and got stuck halfway. Now, I knew at that moment there was something not right. After 15 minutes, the bus finally made it up over the bridge. We all settled in and were introduced to the local mob, and that's what you've got your Native American tribes, Scottish clans, you got Australian mobs. So we were all introduced to the local mob after dinner. We went to our tents, and one for the men and one for the women. That night, as we were sleeping, we were awakened by a woman crying. It was a sad, calling cry. None got up and none spoke in the morning. All the women gathered, asking each other if we had heard the cries. Yes, we all replied, and stood silent. Sorry, need to move something. Got mad cable hanging over my monitor. There we go. That's it now. Where were we? All the women gathered, asking each other if we had heard the crying. Yes, we all replied, and stood silent with our wide eyes. And one of the old aunties looked at me. I knew what she was asking. Okay, I said, tonight I will see what is going on. That night we all sat around the campfire, yarning and laughing. So the bush was peaceful and the sky clear, and I felt a pull on my energy towards the gently rolling hill that had a small creek running through it. I looked back to the mob, and they were looking at me. It was time to find out about the crying lady. I walked over the top of the hill away from the campfire. The moon was bright enough for me to see the landscape. The air was still, and I stood there not knowing what to expect. And there, walking up the hill from the creek, was a white lady in a blue dress from the 1900s. And she had light brown hair, blue eyes, and milk-white skin. I took a deep breath and asked, were you the woman crying in the night? Yes, she said. I need to tell you something. I took a deep breath, readying myself for what she was to show me. On the other side of the creek was land owned by a rich man who had ties to the military. This was her father, one man a soldier, fine in his red coat, wanted to marry her. And one day by the creek, as she and the soldier stood talking, he forced himself upon her. There was a struggle, and the woman found her lifeless body on the ground. That moment, there were two Aboriginal men there, on their ways to men's are for ceremony. It must be to men's ground for ceremonies, walking past down the creek when they saw what the soldier had done. The soldier had them arrested and executed for murder of the lady in the blue dress. Now, as I stood listening to the women's testimony, two Aboriginal men appeared down by the creek, waving at me and smiling. Thank you, my sister. We continue to men's area and finish our ceremony. They pointed right past the campfire where the mob were sitting, and they walked by and disappeared.
Whoa.
As I turned my head, the soldier in his red uniform appeared, and I drew a quick, fast breath. Please forgive me, he said. I had mixed feelings after knowing what he had done. I knew if I did anything, I would have anger in it, and I stood there, and he looked at me. It was stiffening and cold. I said, it is not me you should ask forgiveness, it is the lady. and the warriors. His thoughts went backwards into himself, and I could see the guilt and shame. He began to disintegrate into ash and fell into the earth. I felt relief from everywhere. I went back to the campfire and asked the men where the men's area was, and they pointed to the right where the warriors had went, and my job was done. We slept well that night, and the next morning we left the property a different way to what they had came, to a different bridge. And I looked out of the bus window and saw a graveyard and a headstone, and said to our beloved daughter, that's the fastest she had ever wrote. So that's the end of it there. So they basically, dude, whoa. Now, Luna started writing this before we started talking about anything on Freaky Friday. Not that that means anything, but this was like, took Luna a long time to write this out for us. So it's not been inspired by anything we've said here. I'm telling you, told you it would be good woo.
Very good woo. And the fact that as they were pulling out, or, you know, they were leaving, and she saw the headstone in the graveyard that said, "Our beloved daughter," confirms kind of the story and everything about the spirit she encountered and all of that. So, ooh,
That's
a lot of
that
one.
some weird stuff, right? Yeah. That's some proper weird stuff, man. Big time. So, with that out of the way, I forgot we were halfway through the Welsh Devil, weren't we, Scotty? I forgot about our Welsh Devil. I almost chased him back to hell for us, didn't I?
Yes, we had just a little bit left with the Swansea Devil. So it says, since being relocated, further theories as to the Swansea Devil's original purpose have been suggested. One of the more intriguing is that it might once been a figurehead on a ship due to the previously unseen back of the sculpture, which begs the question, who would want a carving of the devil leading their boat through the high seas? As for the curse, which states that the Swansea Devil should keep his beady eye on St. Mary's Church at all times, this was also taken into account by the curators. Old Nick has been positioned in such a way that he still faces directly towards his old enemy, patiently waiting for that fateful day when St. Mary's Church will once again burn to the ground. So they keep pointing him in that direction. Like, you know, everybody...
You know my answer to it, Scott. My answer is simple. Burn it with flame and chase it back to hell. Get Bill Bean on the scene and just get it all done.
Why wouldn't you just be the guy to break the cycle and be like, you know what? I'm pointing him in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I'm pointing you down towards the inner earth, like 10 foot under the ground.
Or are people afraid that there might be some bad juju that falls upon them if they don't point them in the direction?
It's a good point, actually, when you think about it that way.
Yeah, you know, like, oh, if I don't do this, maybe I'm going to get cursed or something like that. I don't know, but very interesting. Oh my goodness, this site, boy,
it's full of
a lot of interesting stuff, man.
We've done now. Some people might be aware. Most of you will be aware. Might be a strange thing for any podcast to say or any two men to say, but we've done a series of shows on little people, gnomes, trolls, the Norwegian kind, you know, fairies, things like that. So just randomly pick one from here to take us to the break, and then after the break, what we'll do is we'll get into a theory that Spooky Andy has given me. Something he's been thinking about when it comes to these missing 411 type cases. During the week, Scott, I done a stream. There was a lady that had gone missing in a park in Utah. At the time she'd gone, the story I had, it was she'd kind of experienced hiker, gone in there, meant to come home in the afternoon, catch the shuttle bus back. 14 days she was missing, dude. But happy ending, right? But the story was dead vague. It was like the park rangers weren't saying much. They weren't saying if she was injured or what was going on. So I was thinking potential 411, but somebody during the stream had dug up like a more recent article on it, and it turned out no missing 411. It was very logically explained. She'd hit her head. She became I think she'd done her ankle or her head, but she stayed by a water source, and that's how she survived for 14 days. So didn't turn out to be one of those weird ones where they totally vanish or their shoes are up a tree or you know the kind of things that happen. But I thought we were in for it. I thought we were getting there. Or was it the gnomes? Yes, a little bit of gnomage, Scott. Like I say,
Yes.
pretty weird. Yeah, we seem to keep going back here, man. Nothing to do with me being the average height of your average gnome. Nothing to do with that. It says from the alchemical theory to a fairy tale staple. This sounds like a different take, Scott. Alchemical gnomes?
I'm liking this. This is
Yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Shall we dip our toe into some gnomage?
Go for it. Always
not
down
to
for
be
some
mistaken with Gnome Alaska. Obviously, not you get me. We're not talking about those gnomes. So, while gnomes are a popular staple of fairy tales and fantasy, they trace their origins back through alchemical theory to Greek and Roman mythology. Diminutive cave dwellers variously associated with earth, precious metals and good fortune. Reports of gnome sightings have persisted into the present day. Now most people will be most familiar with gnomes as jovial garden ornaments, colourful representations of a subject popular with many 18th century writers, particularly of the Romantic movement. Now, while it could be easy to assume that gnomes trace their origins back to European folklore, much like similar creatures such as Germanic kobold or British hobgoblin, can't beat a hobgoblin. Everyone loves a hobgoblin, man.
What loves a hobgoblin?
Yep, their origin in reality lies with the alchemical theory of the Renaissance. The diminutive beings known as gnomes were first described by Swiss physician and keen student of alchemy, Paracelsus, right? That'll do him.
Yeah, I
Big
think
P. We'll call him
Paracelsus.
the old GP, right? During the 16th century, one of four beings that each represented one of the four empodeclian elements of earth, fire, water, and air. The short chthonic gnomes represented earth alongside the undine water, sylph, air, and salamanders, fire. The name itself likely derives from the Latin genomos, meaning earth dweller. So there was a Latin word, Scott, for an earth dweller.
Interesting.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's
Just
the
saying.
OGP there. Look at him, the OGP, man. Looking good, big
Exactly.
fella. Looking good.
He was all about the gnomage, man. He was ready.
Beyond the tip. While modern parlance would describe these as elementals, Paracelsus, old GP himself did not use the term, instead believing them to be something part way between an animal and a spirit. While considered invisible to humans, they were otherwise physical beings, requiring food, sleep, and clothing much like we do. Each were able to move freely through their own element, allowing gnomes to pass through rocks, walls, and soil as effortlessly as a fish through water. Each would remain healthy when surrounded by their own element, but would sicken and die if exposed to others. Collectively, the four beings were known as the Sagani, the Sagani? Sagani, sounds better. Right, what are we going with, Scott? We'll have a democracy here. You have your say.
I like the Sagani.
Sagani.
Yeah.
That's it, definitely, man. So, while the Undine were described as the most human-like in appearance, the coarser, stronger selves were said to be most like us by old GP. Moving through the air as we do, but drowning in water, burning in fire, or being trapped in rock. So the old man theorized that these various beings differed from humans, as they lacked an immortal soul. Oh, what were we talking about last night, Scotty? That soul thing? Dang, dude.
Exactly. Yep.
However, by wedding a human, the elemental and their subsequent offspring could obtain a soul of their own. That's a weird one, right?
Yeah. Doesn't this...
How does one marry an invisible kind of... Because it did say, like, they need clothes and everything. How does that happen?
But doesn't this now start tying into genetic manipulation and the Nephilim and all of that whole realm of everything? Like these beings that may have come down and genetically spliced themselves with the existing hominid species that existed on the planet. I mean, all of this starts to tie into that when you start to think about it. So, we're talking about these creatures, these entities that are not human, but they obviously have figured out a way, or that they know that that they're compatible with us in some way because they can create offspring. So, it's just very interesting.
Very. And it's going to get even more interesting here. Each of the elements described by Paracelsus, we'll just give him a name, appear to be inspired by older mythologies, particularly drawing on Greek and Roman tradition. The Undine closely resemble the water spirits known as nymphs, and sylphs draw connections of wood nymphs and fairies, as well as taking inspiration from the wild man of medieval European folklore, itself influenced by the satyrs of classic mythology. Now,
wait, so the wild man, isn't that what you guys consider like y'all's Bigfoot?
That's what we call a Bigfoot, and I only found that out a couple of years ago at the Scottish Paranormal Conference. We actually had the lady on, Catherine something her name is. It always escapes me. But she was showing like the kind of you see evidence of the Bigfoot. You see the broken trees and the hides that you sometimes see people saying that could be a Bigfoot building. A lot of like pictures like that she was showing, and some of it, Scott. I mean, it's like, how does a tree just randomly break so high up when all the other trees around it are okay? And it was weird stuff, dude. Weird stuff.
Yeah, very, very, very strange. So I mean, it's interesting, maybe when we're talking about Bigfoot, the wild man, whatever you want to call it, are we talking about some of these elementals? Are we talking about elemental beings that maybe shape-shifting or phasing in and out, because they have that ability to be invisible to humans, right?
And, well, these other ones can go through rock and things, Scott.
Yeah, they can just pass through whatever element. They're, if they're a wood elemental, they're passing through wood. Or if they're earth elemental, they're passing through earth. I mean, it's just interesting how deep this actually kind of goes and how many things it actually connects to.
Big time, dude. Now, the salamanders of folklore, the reptilians, were described in the writings of Pliny the Elder and appear frequently in European stories. Their connections to fire often seen them grouped alongside dragons.
And there we go. I mean, just another one of those common things that you see discussed among many different civilizations and cultures around the world. There always seems to be this common thread of reptilian creatures, reptilian humanoids, dragons. I mean, you see it in Asia, you see it represented in Europe, even in South America. The Aztecs have a
Quetzalcoatl.
Quetzalcoatl.
I got it
And
right. Can you say Paracelsius, man?
you are very good at those.
Is it not Paracletes? I think it's Paracletes, isn't it? That rings a bell. Paraclesis. It's Paraclesis. That's it. Yeah.
But
students of Greek mythology will be all freaking out there, Scott. You know it.
Mm-hmm. No, I think old Periclesis was on to something. Maybe he was describing something that.
Well, when you think of like Greeks, you think of like dead brainy people. Like they were like they were like pretty influential when it came to us like starting to understand shit. Pardon my French,
Yeah, like a lot of smart people, a lot of big brains in Greece.
Yeah,
at that time
they were kind of big on their mythology, and we'll be back after these small messages, like the small gnomes that we're talking about on here, Freaky Friday, your #1 abnormal paranormal show on any network in this world or the next. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. But not you, YouTube. Not you. You don't get rid of us that easy. No. No. They are stuck with Scott. Renzo wants her own dragon. Oh, be careful what you wish for in the year 2020, Renzo. Our power to manifest things might just come back to burn you in the bum. In the case of wishing for a dragon. Yep. The only dragon I want in my room are the Imagine Dragons. Quite like their music. How did your music night go last night, Scott? That look says everything. How many people did you affect with your music?
I don't think Connie's a big fan.
No, Connie. Connie, you can come listen to my really bad music, as Scott would call it.
Look, I'm open-minded. I go in there and I listen to everyone's stuff. But, once the metal gets thrown out there, people kind of keep an open mind, people. You can handle it.
I've seen CERN been talked about in the chat. It catches my eye. And Leslie, I've seen her saying that they're not firing Alice, but they're interpreting all the data in exponential ways. Trying to understand basic quantum physics. Trust me, I'm no geek. Just subscribe to CERN. They're doing a special on dark matter next week. But I was watching what you were saying in the chat room, Leslie, and you're right. That's why I don't talk about CERN all the time. I joked in the Discord the other day I could blow up this channel and bring in tens of thousands of new subscribers, Scotty. 3 good CERN videos. That's all it would take. That's all it would take. Only problem being, can't do it, man. There's nothing new to say. What hasn't been said that I've said before? And Mr. Patch is the CERNologist. So,
Yeah, you already got someone out there covering all of that. And honestly,
once there's something to talk about at CERN, me and Scott will be on it. We'll be on it like a bonnet.
And I mean, if anybody was to do an actual qualified breakdown of everything going on at CERN, it would be Patch anyways.
I think he's going on
there's really nothing we can add on to what Patch has already talked about when it comes to everything going on there. So,
Yeah.
but if they're doing something crazy that, something crazy enough, it'll get our attention. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, I've got the effect on After Effects where it looks like we could have the rift opening above Geneva. Remember that really crap one that came out a couple of years ago of the wormhole opening above it? I can easily make something way better than that, Scott. It's going to go mega viral when it happens. That's what I'll do. Wormhole over CERN. Should I do it? Should I just LARP it out there just for an experiment? No.
That's the thing with all the CERN stuff. It's a very easy subject to LARP on.
Oof. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
There is. There's not even collisions this year. I think they're just firing up some particles and using the first part of the speed up thing. And I didn't even get that from CERN. I got that from Patch because I got a Patch from a CERN news. That's where I go, man.
And in all honesty,
here we go.
It's pretty boring what they're doing there most of the time, anyways.
Here we go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're moving into the second half of today's Freaky Friday already. Big shout out to everyone over in the Wookiee Cave over on tfrlive.com, where silence is consent and where we try to offer you protection from deception. And in the end of the day, the responsibility all shifts onto you. Yes, me and Scott, we've got no blame taken. We provide, you decide, so you can make of whatever we say as you may. And it's been good so far tonight, Scotty boy. I think we'll finish off the little paraclesis. Forgotten how to say it again, right? The gnomes. And then we're going to do the missing 411. Because I think Andy's little theory, I'm not going to give any of it away just yet. So we're talking gnomes before the break, something I'm quite familiar with every time I look in a mirror. I am vertically challenged, but not officially. I don't fit the criteria of a gnome, not yet. Maybe if I shrink a couple of inches when I get older, dude.
You know what it is, Kev? You straddle that gray area. Yep. You straddle the gray area that they just can't classify. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's not black or white. I'm in the gray. Yeah. That's it. That's where we operate, Scott. In the grey goo. That's it, man. Forget the black goo. It's the grey goo. Remember grey goo used to be a thing?
I was just about to say the grey goo. That was the.
That was a thing way before black goo.
Yes, I remember grey goo being talked about back in the 90s, man.
Wasn't that the theory that potentially nanotechnology would self-replicate and they would really eat everything that they came into contact with just to fuel themselves and build more of themselves, right?
Yeah, that was the basic premise behind it, was that there was be a self-replicating nano machine that could use any sort of element, anything it came in contact with to
like the replicators in SG-1. Because everyone should have watched Stargate 1. It should be mandatory for any human being growing up to watch Stargate 1, man.
Yeah, and that it would keep replicating itself and consuming everything that it touched until the Earth became a ball of black, or a ball of gray goo.
Big Tulk always had them under control, though. Tulk saved humanity time and time and time again. There you go. Not that I'm a big fan of Stargate, Scott. Oh. Go figure, right?
I can't tell that you've ever watched an episode, Kev.
And I do believe that Daniel Jackson is a real person. I think he has been through a Stargate, and I think there's a lot of truth hidden in that show. Truly, truly. I'm not even just pretending. I know I've got a wee smile on my face. You can hear me laughing in my voice, but I honestly do think there's more in that rings true about what I think the universe is like than what I'm told in the mainstream, Scotty boy. I'm telling you, man.
Definitely something going on there in the whole Stargate series. And then the fact that they were weren't they like collaborating with
Oh, they give huge thanks to the U.S. military and the Pentagon.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, that's interesting for a sci-fi show like that.
Now, I know there's
Why?
a famous photograph that does the rounds when you talk about real Stargate, Scotty. It's that one that you see. It's like back when they were excavating all of the the Valley of the Kings in Egypt, and they've got this big thing, whoa, big thing, huge thing on the wall. It's got all the chevrons from SG-1. But it's quite easy to find the original picture where that big Stargate was never there. I would love that picture to be true. I want it to be true, but it just isn't. But it doesn't mean they didn't find one somewhere else. I mean, wasn't Saddam Hussein trying to get the old Stargate going? And really, that was the reason that we went to Iraq? Hey, we went to the museums before we went anywhere else, right? So what's that all about?
Didn't Saddam say that he was like
Nebuchadnezzar, wasn't it?
Nebuchadnezzar
Yeah,
and all?
that's it,
Yeah,
yeah.
like it was, and all of that stuff, and
He was phoning up people going, hey, don't call me Saddam anymore. I'm Big Neb. Big Nebber. All right? It's Big Nebber. He put the phone down. He charged into Q8, got the Stargate, and we know what happened next, right? The Gulf War.
yeah. And maybe his body double was what was pulled out of the spider hole. Who knows?
If only he had taken a bunch of really, if he, I was reading CJ in the chat. You're concerning me, Kev Baker, talking about wee things and bonnets. Don't be disturbed. I disturbed myself, my friend. It's okay. But I was going to say, Scott, wouldn't it have been like a different story if Saddam and his Republican Guard had been intertwined with some warrior gnomes? And that takes us back to the gnome story. You see, it was a bad segue, but we got there. We got back.
Hey,
yeah.
And there was also those guys in pajamas that look like Nephilim, but let's not worry about those guys either.
Genetically modified. Remember, we were told what they were, Scott. It wasn't just us saying it. It was like the head of the Syrian bloody army was saying it. Big shout out to the head of the Syrian military, who probably would be a fan of Freaky Friday with the kind of stuff he talks about. Yeah. Oh, don't say that. We'll be on a list now. Anyway, here we go. So, in the case of Paracelsus, I've forgotten how to say it. Who knows? Big old GP. He seems to have been influenced primarily by the description of mythological creatures called pygmies, reminiscent of fairies or gnomes. Now, featured in the Iliad, the pygmies were described as diminutive humanoids, less than 3 spans in height, the distance between the tip of the thumb and the finger on the open hand. Now, I can assure everybody out there, despite my joking and everything else, I am taller than that. They lived in a remote, mountainous region where they conducted an ongoing war with the cranes, who would migrate to the pygmies' homeland every winter. A popular subject of red figure pottery, pygmies were almost invariably depicted battling flocks of cranes or herons. Later, Greek writers placed them as living in various places around the world, with no relation to outdated 19th century terminology used by Victorian explorers to describe some peoples of the Congo Basin. This animosity between the two factions was said to have begun after the queen of the pygmies, Garana, made a foolish boast that she was more beautiful than the goddess Hera. Vindictive and easily provoked, the wife of Zeus transformed Garana into a crane for her insolence. Now, the pygmies were said to lead regular raids into the cliff-top homes of the birds, armed with bows and mounted on rams or goats, devouring eggs and chickens to prevent them growing into adult birds that would further plague them. Don't tell Popeye. Do not
I
tell
was
Popeye.
about to say Popeye needs to start setting up some defenses around his
He's Popeye the
around his
chicken man. He lives in a caravan. He has a big beard. He's Popeye the chicken man. Bark, bark.
I'm going to crop that later and play that for him.
Oh, it's going to be one of these shows. Yes, we've hit this. Usually we get this silly about 10 minutes from the end, Scott. Not a good sign. So it says, serious subject again, gnomes. A number of prominent Greek and Roman writers describe tales of pygmies and their eternal war. Pliny's history, or natural history, gives us their size and the description of their mounted raids on the homes of the cranes, as well as stating their homes were crude constructions of mud and plundered feathers and eggshells. Pliny himself acknowledged that here he differed from the earlier writings of Aristotle. Aristotle was writing about gnomes? What timeline are we on here? Was he not a brainy dude who described them as living underground, but otherwise their accounts tallied closely? Well, I'm sorry. News flash from Freaky Friday. If Aristotle does dwarfs in his presentations back in the day, Scott, let no troll ever go at us for speaking about dwarfs ever again, right?
That's what I'm saying. And the detail in the descriptions of like how they lived, what they built their homes out of, this war that they were having with it was like, really, who's gonna go through like making all of that up? Did Aristotle just decide, I'm just gonna come up with this absolute crazy bullshit story just because I'm Aristotle? And I don't know, man. This is all based in something.
Just because
Somebody
he's Aristotle and he just thought one day, you know, I'll take a day off from being like that philosopher, dude. And I'll just, like, write a rambling about a gnome. They were real. That's what it is, Scott. They were known about. I believe it, man.
But it just goes back to all of these different cultures talking about these little people, these small entities of some kind.
Well, remember we had Luna's story on? Remember the picture that we showed? The Donnie? Our brother had shown us of the yowie? The little yowie? Remember that? Little person. Yeah. Now, bigger than the 3 hand spans, granted. But still. But still. Yeah. So, following their conception in Renaissance alchemy theory, gnomes became a popular subject in the 18th century fairy tales and romanticism. So, Scott, before I even go on, is this where we kind of find that something from a factual thing, perhaps, things that we're known about, and then over time, the stories are embellished and the kind of new narrative spun into it?
Yeah, because it's not it starts to differ and kind of stray away from the original mythos, right? And but there is still the underlying, you know, the core of it is still based in something, you know, and that's what's kind of cool about this website, is that it actually traces this all back to where it all originated from, which I find really cool.
Yeah,
that,
there's,
you know,
there's no copy paste stuff from like Wikipedia or anything here. This is like well researched where it's coming from.
Yeah, and so it just shows how those tales and stories have changed over time, and you know, people may have added stuff to it to make it relevant for the period that they're living in, right? Because it's much easier to get a story across to somebody, especially when it more pertains to the era in which they're living, so maybe certain things from that time may be referenced or things might be changed, but at its core, it's all based on something. So
Agreed,
very,
dude.
very cool.
Yeah. It says, following their conception and Renaissance alchemy theory, gnomes became popular subject of the 18th century fairy tales and romanticism. Now, their traits often change to suit the needs of the writer, but their short stature and close association with the earth and underground generally remaining constant. Now, the term gnome was introduced to many readers by the mock heroic narrative, the really bad word of the walk, by poet Alexander Pope. The poem satirizes an incident of the theft of a lock of hair from a young woman, Arabella, by her suitor. The title derives from the Latin rapere, meaning to snatch or carry off, and the algorithm would not have understood that. The algorithm would have just heard a really grim 4-letter word, bad thing happening to a woman, and thought, Baker, having none of it. It wouldn't have gone for the Latin meaning and thought, okay then, I understand, you see. An incident that in the narrative results in an ongoing feud between the families. Now, the poem mocks the relatively benign incident by comparing it to feuding of the Greek gods, represented in the story by, there the OG back again, the old boy, and his 4 original elemental gnomes. Remember those ones we mentioned? So the differing natures and worldviews of gnomes and sylphs results in them battling futilely throughout the mock epic to influence the behaviour of the heroine. The popularity of the poem did much to establish the term gnome in English parlance. Oh, look at him, Scotty. Look at him. He's just, look at him with his big beardy. Look, he's just looking at the choo-choo train and he's all happy, man. Look, see?
Who knew that we would have a picture of Popeye on this website?
Who knew that back in like 1848, a time when people were far more grounded, I would imagine, a very famous painting of a gnome watching a train. Why? Why? You know, I'm just saying, Scott, why? So,
That's because there was a gnome.
and even if we're in a simulation, that makes it even more random. Who threw in that little line of code? We'll mess them up with all these like totally out of place weird things in the past. Holy shit-moly, wait till I meet these programmers, Scott Lopez. I'm telling you, man, give me the D-Wave. Let me at them. Let me at them. Fire up that damn Stargate.
Kev's ready. He's ready to do battle, man.
I'm going, man. I'm going. Just disappear out here, man. Oh, too much fun. So by the 19th century, they had lost much of their individual character, but in the year 2020, Freaky Friday gave them a breath of fresh air, largely becoming synonymous with Freaky Friday. Isn't it, Scott?
Hey, look, MAGA, make gnomes great again.
Oh, I like it, yeah. Yeah.
Actually, that's MGA.
We can make American gnomes great again. MAGAGA.
Okay.
There you go. Largely becoming synonymous with, here we go, the goblins.
Ooh.
Can I get it right? Can I get it right, Scott? Can I get it right? Can I?
I don't want to see him kissing goblins,
Oh, I got one right.
ingratiating goblins.
You see, Scotty. Order in the Baker universe.
Order has been restored.
Absolutely. So they were frequently described as an antithesis to fairies, ugly, slow, and associated with darkness and underground places, as opposed to fairies and their association with nature, light, and beauty. Listen, You ain't gonna get away with calling anyone ugly or slow these days. So political correctness has done these little gnomes a big favour. Today, gnomes are widely considered a fiction of mad people's imagination. Oh no, sorry, that was just me saying that. That was my subconscious shouting at me, Scott. Today, gnomes are widely considered a creation of fairy tales rather than possible living creatures successfully hiding their existence from humanity. However, that is not to say that they are without reported sightings. In 1979, a group of children reported witnessing a bizarre procession in the grounds of Wollaton Park, close to the centre of Nottingham, UK. They described a column. Oh man, they're like in military formation, dude. They described a column of up to 30 tiny blue cars, each carrying a gnomish driver and a passenger wearing tights, blue tops, and bubble hats. The story received significant media coverage at the time, but no further sightings of the strange vehicles or their occupants were ever reported.
Wait.
I need to check this. I need to see what is going on here. You know?
Wait. Where did they purchase the cars, kid?
I want to know what fungi these people were eating off the trees in that park, dude.
Who produces these vehicles?
I see gnomes in cars. Each car had two of them. It's a thing.
It's a thing, dude.
It's a thing. Hang on, there's a tape transcript. What the hell is going on here?
What have we stumbled across here?
Oh, well, we can go to this because this is our good friend. Yes, our good friend Lon has covered it back in 2012.
Lon's like, this is old hat to me. You don't know about the.
Holy hell, dude! We're earning our stripes in the woo today, ain't we? Eh?
Yeah, well, we need to break ourselves in on this convoy of gnomes.
With tights on and blue hats. Oh, what on earth are we doing? Right, anyway, it says, this odd incident occurred on October the 29th, 1979. It says in a swampy area. I'm thinking a mushroom-infested area of Wollaton Park, Nottingham. Serious head on, Kev. Dave Baker in the house. There's not much information to go on. All the evidence is anecdotal. But it is interesting. A mass sighting of gnomes. I can't do this, man. Oh, dear Lord. I can't get a picture of them out of my head. And they're all... oh.
Oh, man.
Wow. Oh, the giggles, man. The giggles is not good. Right, here we go. Serious voice, son. Serious voice.
We can do it.
The witnesses...
No, I can't do it, Scott.
The witnesses were a small group of children aged 8 to 10. And the events took place in September 1979 in Wollaton Park, Nottingham. They were in the park grounds at 8:30 p.m. when it was getting dark, but there was still some light to see by. In a swampy area with trees fenced off to stop the public from entering, the children saw about 60 little men, about half as tall as themselves. They had long white beards with red tips and wrinkled faces. They wore caps on their heads, described as being like old-fashioned nightcaps, noddy style, with a bobble on the end. They also wore blue tops and yellow tights. Now, for one moment there, I thought we were talking about a legitimate sighting of the Smurfs. I actually thought we might have had the Smurfs, Scott. I'm telling you, man.
We're
Oh.
getting close.
Right, here we go. Yeah, they wore caps on their heads, nightcaps, noddy style, with a bauble on the end. Now, they also wore blue tops and yellow tights. For most of the 15 minutes that the children spent with them, the little men were in little cars. Well, I would expect them to be in big cars. That would look even more stupid, wouldn't it? They wouldn't be able to reach the pedals. You know what I'm saying? There were 30 cars with 2 men in each. The cars didn't have steering wheels, but a round thing with a handle to turn. There was no sound of engines, but they travelled fast and could jump over obstructions like logs. Dude, it's like wacky races or something, man. Micro machines.
I was just about to say, this is like they're over here ramping their cars and
Pimped out gnome-mobiles, do you know what I mean?
it's like a Hot Wheels track or something, man.
Isn't it? So it seems they were also seen up in the trees, coming out of and returning to holes. The children felt they could only come out after dark. Now, despite the disbelief of their parents when told about the little men, the children were adamant and they were not making up stories. They also claimed to have seen the little people before, during the long summer holiday, and the headmaster interviewed and recorded them separately soon after. And despite a few discrepancies in their accounts and differences in emphasis, the children do sound truthful. Holy heck, dude. Furthermore, the author Janet Bord adds this seemingly innocuous footnote based on similarities to the sighting. We've got more. Over 6 years before the Walleton fairies were reported in the media, the break came, and it said, "We'll be back after these short no-me messages." Have a little look out your window, see if there's any little cars out there. Well, I never thought we'd ever have a story like this, my friend. Somebody in the chat room, Cheryl says yabba dabba doo. I had a picture of a Flintstone kind of car when it started saying there was no steering wheels and it was a handle thing going on. Yeah.
I don't know what to say, man. This has got to be one of the most bizarre
Freaky Fridays ever.
It's up there. It's up there.
Now, I need to find a couple of clips while you're talking there, Scott. You crack on,
as
bro.
far as accounts of little people, gnomes, this is definitely one of the more bizarre experiences that I've heard about. And the whole addition to them driving cars or being in these little vehicles, that it just is like, whoa.
It's just bizarre, isn't it?
Now it does make me think, though, like, being serious, children are more open to the supernatural, right? And so if we're talking about some entity that maybe doesn't fully exist within our, I would say, frequency or whatever, maybe these children are a little more opened up to see them.
Yeah, like same as when you've got poltergeists or ghosts in a house. It seems to be kids; they can pick up more readily on it, you know.
Yeah, so maybe these children, just because of the fact that they're children and they're more opened up to this stuff, maybe they saw these entities, these gnomes, going about their business, right? While they're normally invisible to pretty much everyone else. Maybe it was just one of those rare moments where you had a bunch of kids that could actually see them. they were opened up enough to where they could actually see these other entities that dwell among us. And they were like, whoa, um, it almost sounds like these entities are operating, just out of view of our spectrum, but they're living in parallel with us, and sometimes people can get a glimpse or have that ability to just see right beyond that spectrum, right beyond that veil, and see this other world that is operating in parallel with us, which is kind of crazy to think about,
Big time,
So,
bro, big time.
maybe there was something to
Not
it.
to be mistaken with the swamp goblins.
I never expected Trump charging into a goblin's nest to not
Not
get
those-
some goblin vomit,
We're not talking
slop,
about
and
those
blood on
goblins.
him. I don't want
They're
to see
bad
him
goblins.
kissing goblins. Spider goats are at least 25 years old.
Spider goats. I couldn't find anything about spider goats on this website. It let me down there. But it is a thing. Here we go. Where's the vault? There we go. Let's see. Bring the network back in a second. Here we go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. What a very special show it's been so far, Scotty Lopez. Man.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And, during the break, I was talking about, hey, children are more opened up to this kind of thing, to seeing the supernatural and stuff like that. So maybe there was something to this. Maybe these kids did see these entities that live in parallel.
You know, it was quite interesting as well when we were talking about the painting that had been done. They were in a hole in a tree, the little gnome. And then that account there, they were saying they were going in and out of holes in the trees.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
It ties into the underground, dwelling underground, or earth dwellers, whatever you want to call them. It just fits the same stereotypical description of these gnomes and these small entities, I guess you can call them, these little people, these tiny humanoids that seems to be where they dwell, underground. They're earth elementals, I guess you could say, going back to Paraclesis. So
well, give that man a hat. Yep.
Yes. And so once again, it all seems to be rooted in something.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course,
you know what this would suggest, though? This would suggest that they have their own technology, right? Because I joked about who's making the cars. Well, obviously, they're making the cars. They have their own
Tesla,
their own factories or whatever, their own little production facilities. They're making their clothes and all of that stuff. So they seem to be pretty intelligent as far as that is concerned. I mean, they have some level of culture and sophistication and technology and all of that stuff. So,
you know what, dude? The fact it's taking place in a forest, I'm open to it being anything. We've talked about the whole how that's like a world of its own. I truly do think from the roots of the trees right up to the canopy at the top, it's like its own consciousness. All of it working together. I know it sounds weird. I know it does. But I'm a weird guy. So talking of weird, one of our favourite staples here on the show seems to be going back and forth and looking at missing 411 type cases. Now, Scott, before I get into Andy's little download he gave me here, when we spoke about missing 411, we've come up with XYZ 1, 2, 3 theories, hypothesize, right? We've talked about possible cryptids. What else would you throw in there? Because not one thing fits all, right? But you know, with some of the things we've talked about before. Before we get to this, because I think Andy thinks he's hit on something that nobody's really covered, and I agree with him. I've never heard the thing that we're going to talk about in a minute before.
Okay.
So, what are some of the other things that we've talked about when people go missing in the woods?
I mean, obviously, we thought about a lot of the more logical explanations first, right? Like predator animals, mountain lions, bears, stuff like that. Then getting into more of the kind of woo sort of explanations, random portals that may exist out in the forest, like natural energy vortexes,
Like the story of the hairy hands, try to grab him through the portal.
yeah, where the dude he walked and he said all of a sudden he walked through what looked like a blurry sort of
Static.
kind of like
Yeah.
static, or even the way I would say that, like the way you see heat shimmering above like a road or something like that, where the light seems to be distorted kind of. He walked through it and he said the environment around him changed. He went from being in I think that happened in the Pacific Northwest, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it went from being like this, the forest up in the Northwest to a more jungle environment with humidity and all of this, and something reached at him and tried to grab him, and he stepped back and he was back in where he was at. So I mean, to me, he just walked through a portal. So we've got that, and then we've got the cryptids. We've discussed that whole aspect of it as well. Is Bigfoot a little more nefarious than we've been led to believe? I mean, or is there other cryptids out there? Are people getting snatched by the rake? There's all kinds of things that could be out there, and so there's that aspect.
Check this, Scott.
Yeah.
Reloaded on YouTube. Took my twin girls hiking when they were little once, and they kept saying that they were seeing something following us. I never saw anything, but they said something was there watching us. Oh my goodness.
Good Lord. I'm telling you, man, I don't know. There's something being out in the middle of a forest, just out in the woods. You immediately realize how vulnerable you really are. You know what I mean?
Big time.
Like once you come to the realization that you are alone in the elements, and that
It takes you out your comfort zone, dude.
oh, definitely, and that you're just a very insignificant thing that is subjected to the will of whatever else is out there, nature, and like I said, animals, and predator animals, the elements, and then on top of that, the unexplained, the stuff that we just don't know about. It just
The unknown.
The unknown unknowns. And so yeah, I'm sure people definitely pick up on a vibe of danger, Will Robinson.
Good
when
way
you're
of putting
out.
it, Scott. It's a good way of putting it, I must admit. Now, I'm just going to bring something up here. Give me 2 seconds. There we go. Now, I'm going to go and get Andy's message. Because this is Andy's theory. And I want to Not paraphrase it, but get it right. Okay. Now, Andy says, I have a last minute theory for your stream tonight for you to discuss with Scotty. Now, I invited Andy on, but unfortunately he was busy. He was doing something. So, hopefully he'll be able to listen to this back later. I'll send him it timestamped so he can. But he said it's about missing 411 and missing people in national parks I don't think anyone's ever covered before. The theory that I've come up with is that when people are missing, they're actually thinking that they're running to help somebody. Now hear me out, hear me out. This Andy, I'm reading from what he read here. I want you to look up the yell of a fox, or a scream of a fox, if you will. So, what I'm going to do here, folks, is I'm going to let you hear exactly what Andy's talking about. Yeah, quick second here, turn that down now. Here we go.
Oh my gosh.
Now, it was a bit low, so we'll try and get another one here. Here we go, it's coming in a sec. That's a pretty creepy ass sound, right? But then Andy goes on to say, then I want you to look at the scream or the yell of a mountain lion. So if I come over here and we put this on. It's a bit of a noise, that one, Scotty, right? So, he wasn't done there. He says, then I want you to look up the scream or yell of a mountain goat, if you will. So we will. So we'll... No, that one's screaming like a human. We don't want that one. Now, folks, the goat hasn't made a noise yet, by the way. That was obviously birds you were hearing there. Obviously, right? Come on, goat. Come on, goat. That's a pretty... This better make a good sound in a minute, Scott. I'm going to be highly disappointed. Not a good screaming sound there. Not, It's the same one, it is. Goats yelping. Right, here we go. This is it. Now that one does sound a bit weird, Scott, doesn't it? That one,
Yeah.
that's weird, right?
Goat screams. Yeah, goat screams can sound a lot like
Humans.
somebody. Yeah, humans.
So,
Mhm.
well, we'll try that top one then. Uh-huh.
You need to chat with my good friend Ron Murphy. He has many book about all things woo. Very knowledgeable.
Ron Murphy. Take that name down. There we go. I will. Whoa.
Whoa.
Living the good life right here at Kev Baker.
Hey, Mystic. It's Kev
Hey.
Baker and the Scotty Lopez. It's a double act. Here we go. Funny goats screaming like humans.
Yeah.
That's the one I think Andy would say plays into what we're gonna say here in a minute. So what Andy goes on to say is, it doesn't matter what the age of the person. When you hear somebody yelling or screaming, if you have half a heart, you always go to investigate. The reason why I say that is that if you were to go running towards a mountain lion and it's screaming, it's going to kill you. Or if a mountain lion is hunting and a goat or a fox yell, then it has somebody to target. The only reason why I'm bringing this up is because it was brought up in a discussion over dinner last night, and no one believed me the noises some of these animals would make, and I've been thinking about it ever since. And it would only make sense that if that was happening, that it could be the outcome of a missing 411 case. And Andy also goes on to say, now that doesn't account for all of them, but I'm sure that this could account for a good majority of them. Well, I don't know if I'd go for a majority, but I would say there's definitely going to be a number of people, me included, if I heard this, now, apart from absolutely myself to begin with and brown stuff running down out my plus fours, because Scottish people wear plus fours when we're out hiking and things, right? I might run towards that. And if you've got a mountain lion like Andy says or something, again, he's the first one. I didn't even prompt him saying that it's not going to account for all of them. It might have something to do with one or two or maybe more, dude.
It's definitely a possibility, and I think it probably does account for a percentage of these missing 411 cases, especially when you're talking about people who may be inexperienced hikers or not
Even
really.
Think about it the other way, Scott. Think of hearing that again. Let's listen to that one noise again. Because as opposed to running towards it, you might absolutely cack it and run the opposite direction and straight off a cliff. You might panic. You might run away, you know?
That's another thing too. Somebody could have heard these noises, freaked out, bolted.
They already know people go missing in the forest, and then they hear a mad disembodied scream coming from up the hill.
Yeah, and then in that adrenaline and that they end up getting lost, right? Because they're not really they're not paying too much attention to where they're just trying to get out of there, right? And they end up running deeper into the forest or something like that. So definitely a possibility, but like I said, I mean, I think Andy's onto something with some of this because.
And in the forest setting, Scott, like you said, in the great outdoors, that sounds a lot different than listening to it here at home.
Yeah, and like I said, a lot of these people that may be inexperienced, that don't have any sort of a lot of experience hearing animals, wildlife out, and knowing that there's these kind of subtle clues to listen for when you hear something, to know that, okay, it's a goat, making that sound, even though it sounds really, human-like or whatever. It's just like around here. I'll give it an example. Here in Kansas, we have coyotes. And when there's like a pack of coyotes running through a field, like there's a field behind our house, and they'll run through that field, and it sounds like people cackling and laughing. That's the noise that they make. It's a very unnerving and spooky noise if you've never heard a coyote before, because you're like, what the hell is that? But it sounds like strange cackling and laughing that has a human-like quality to it. And if you've never heard it before, it would definitely freak you out. You would go bolting the other direction. But if something sounds like somebody maybe in distress, like Andy said, there's a lot of people that are like, oh man, somebody's crying for help. I need to go and help them. Maybe they fell. A lot of the people think that maybe some of these people think that there's a guy hiking and maybe he fell and broke his leg, and that they're the only ones there to provide some help or something like that, or whatever. You hear a person in distress, you're gonna go and try to help if that's what you believe.
Or you're a psychopath.
Yeah. So that definitely could play a role in some of these, where somebody goes to investigate some of the screaming sound, and like Andy said, there's a mountain lion sitting there waiting, or something like that, or they just end up getting lost in the kind of chaos of the situation. So yeah, interesting theory. I think it's plausible. Definitely another one that's on the table. And so the missing 411 stuff continues. I just think there are so many variables and so many different possibilities to the missing 411 thing that you just can't chalk it down to one thing.
No, and I was just hanging out over there in the Wookiee cave as well, Scott, but you gave me chills up the back of my neck when you said about like the scream in the woods and that. Oh, pretty creepy, dude. It's been some freaky Friday, man. But Lancifer, he says, by the way, Mr. Baker, please thank the good lady Anne for letting you away with this crap. It was SHIT. From all of us. I mean, everyone, not just the ones in my head. Lancifer, thank you, brother. And, yeah, she gets peace and quiet when I'm on here. She actually tries to get me to do a lot more streaming than I usually do, and the shows and everything else. She's like, I suppose if, like, this was showbiz, which it's not, but should be partner / manager / cheerleader. You know what I'm saying, Scott? That person that, like, when you, maybe some days you get up, you can't be motivated. You'd rather just maybe, play some FIFA or something like that. Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. No. The guilt comes. You're not doing anything on your YouTube. Come on, you don't be a YouTube. You've not been streaming for a while, She knows how to get me going, dude. Yeah.
Hey. She's your motivator, so.
She is, yes, indeed. It's funny, though, because some of the people at our work are well into the Kev Baker show, and it makes her cringe. It makes her cringe because she thinks I'm off my head, Scott. Me and Anne are like opposite ends of the woo spectrum. Seriously, dude. Opposites attract and all that. Keeps me kind of grounded, Kinda iffy. You might have seen me get, like, looking distracted when you were talking there. Last 10-15 minutes, right? Ding, ding, ding. And it's Gmail, and I'm thinking, surely not. And I say surely not because I think I've told you before, Scotty. It's either you or Jimmy I've told that. See, because I've got the website, kevbakershow.com. I don't populate it very much these days. Don't tell Anne. Don't tell Anne. She'll have me writing on the website all day. There it goes again, right? I'm going to pull it up. Now, you're not going to see, really, but it's WordPress, right? Now, I've got, like, a comment filter and all kinds of stuff on the back end, and the site is spam-free, Scotty. Apart from one article. One article. And that article is always a new comment on the post. Geordie Rose discussing AI and making machines with goals, right? So it's the show I done with Geordie. And do you know what keeps on commenting on it? Random looking botty type chatbots.
Interesting.
It's not even like spammy marketing or it's just weird.
Very interesting.
I would like to think it's somebody out there playing a little prank on me because, trust me, it works. Because, you know, my mind with the AI and D-Waves and that one article out of all of them, always ding, ding. 39 emails since I last looked at it.
Wow.
I'll take
That
a
is-
screenshot and send it because it's not quite. There it is, zooming in now. 39. See it, WordPress 39.
Do you think it could be just because of the name? Like maybe
I don't
somebody.
know why. I don't know how it's got through all the security that it doesn't get through into. Because that's a nightmare usually on the back end of a website. If you've got a comment section, there'll be like links getting posted to just marketing bots out there try to post everywhere, you know, in the hope that somebody will click a link. But these ones are weird, dude. Just weird.
Yeah, I don't know. Strange. Very
It's
strange.
bizarre, right? Bizarre. If I disappear anytime soon, folks, you know
what?
fire up the D-Wave. I might just be in one of them.
I think that's where that 10% of extra resources is going. It's going to that comment section.
Yeah, it's going to my bloody Gmail account. That's not good. No wonder
There it
Jordy
is.
came on the show. No wonder he came on. Now I know why he came on.
He needed a place to offload that 10% of extra data. That's
Weird,
what it
though.
was.
Isn't it weird, though, quickly about AI? You know, even getting in touch with him. You know that was an AI that put me in touch with him, right? Because it was recommended people you should add on LinkedIn. And the recommendations are all done by AI, ain't they?
Nice.
I mean,
So-
I get it. You got D-Wave probably popping up there. He's got D-Wave on his account, so it picks him out. But still, it was still AI that made that happen. That's creepy.
You and Jordy Rose were connected through an AI.
Creepy ass, eh? How bad is that crap, dude? Whoa. Whoa. I've got to try and sleep tonight. But not until I've listened to Brent Thomas. He'll be coming up right after Freaky Friday. He's got a Stargate. And you know what it's called? It's called the Paranormal Portal. And you are all invited. We'll be back after the break. Don't go anywhere. Actually sounded like a pretty professional outro there, like I'd actually thought about that one, Scott. You know, Stargates and portals. And... Dave's doing well since that story with the gnomes. He's taken over the Kev Baker vehicle, man. Baker's been pushed to the back.
That gnome story was rough. My giggles were really tickled.
No, that should come with a PPP warning. Do not advance any further if you're beyond this level of PPP. It should have been a mushroom-infested forest, though. That would have been even funnier, wouldn't it?
Maybe all those kids got hungry and saw that there was a snack. I don't know.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. So when we come back after the break, we're going to shift gears and we're going to go back into little people. Down under this time, though, Scotty. Luna has dropped us some woo. I don't even need to go and check it to know it's going to be golden woo. Confidence high, big man. It'll be the way to take us out today. Telling you.
Have you ever seen the movie Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny?
I've heard of Tenacious D, but it's not coming to mind, dude. It's not.
It's a stupid movie. You know, it's a comedy movie, but it's
Hey, nothing
it's
stupid
fun.
about comedies, man. Especially when there's a level of PPP involved.
Well, yes, it's stupid in the sense that it's stupid funny kind of thing. But there's a scene in the movie where Jack Black is out in the forest and he sits down and he's like, "Oh my God, I'm starving. I haven't ate all day." And he looks over and there's a gigantic mushroom.
I can see where this is gonna go.
He eats it, and next thing you know, he's visited by Sasquatch and informed that He is a Sasquatch's son, and a very hilarious.
Email again. Still
A
going,
very
man.
hilarious scene unfolds from that point, which it's one of my favorite parts in any comedy movie. It's so hilarious.
Oh, Luna's saying she hasn't read it yet. You don't need to read it though, Luna, because I know if you were led to that story. Telling you, entangled. You're connected. I'm connected. We're all connected, ain't we, Scott? We're all connected, like little bits of stardust. Yep, indeedy, indeedy. Just watching the clock, waiting for us to go back here. Nearly there. You don't have to listen to my bad music. Not putting any of that on. See, I'm gonna struggle along without a coffee until the end of the show. Things I do for Freaky Friday, Scott. The sacrifices we both make, you know.
Look at that dedication, the sacrifices that Kev makes for.
Now, I hope you've taken a note of when he's Popeye the Chicken Man. He lives in a caravan. But I hope you've taken a note of when that was on, so you can cut it out from later. There's people in the chat room asking about Popeye making comebacks, Scott. And obviously, I'm talking about Popeye the Sailor Man, the cartoon, for the algorithm's benefit. You know, because the other one is verboten. Here we go.
Well, he takes responsibility, Kev.
Oh, he always does. Here we go. Hey, there we go. Wow. It's
Holy
been one of those
crap.
nights. It's been one of those nights now. CJ. Big shout out to CJ. He's asking when there's going to be a Baker Gate. You're never going to get me. No. Well, I wouldn't like to say never going to do anything that ends up a gate at the end of it. However, I would like to think, Scott.
The closest thing to a gate that we have ever happened. I'm just gonna say #ambassador.
Ambassador Gate. It's gotta be up there, dude. I've got to hold my hands up.
That's a pretty close contender for having a gate put at the end of it. Just saying.
I take full responsibility. Like, you know, like whoever it was that originally got the 17th letter going. Like, at some point they should come out and just say, look, I take responsibility. Well, listen, I'm going to have my moment, because that was at least that one had a face. Well, he didn't. Remember, he didn't have a face. He just had a logo. Oh, damn. So, look, okay, I hold my hands up. But, Scott, you were there. You were there when I got shanghaied into doing that. You seen how that all happened. That was that Joe Joseph and Popeye, man. They got offered the ambassador.
I know Popeye was involved, but I think Joe Joseph was the one who was really
He got me at work. He got me at work when I was out on patrol. Kev. Message me quick. I've got something really urgent. I remember it. What is it, mate? He's like, Kev, I've got like huge show. This could like explode your show. There's this guy, but it's not quite my genre. I do the politics and things, and I mean, you go pretty out there, right? And I'm like, yeah, who is it? And you've got to remember, Scott. Got to remember, very early on in doing a radio show here, and you hear the words an ambassador. An ambassador to who? Some secretive Chinese dynasty that's gonna come and save the world with ninjas? I'm there, dude. I'm there. And that's how it all happened. So Joe Joseph may have started it, but I take responsibility. Yeah.
Hey,
Or Rothgate.
Oh.
That was another, could have been, that was definitely worthy of a gate. Well worthy of it.
Oh, man.
Talk of alphabet agencies and...
I'm just thinking of all of the drama.
Remember the drama, dude? It was bad, man.
Wow. Yeah.
For
Yeah.
all of you long-time KBSers and Freaky Fridayers, you'll have lived through this with us, yes. Thank you for
Mhm.
sticking with us, yeah. But that was definitely more of a gate than the ambassador, dude.
So I think so.
Yeah.
Would have to be.
That's pretty good. We've been going, what, 6 years? Yeah, about 6 years on KBS. Couple of gates. Not too bad, man.
Yeah, not bad.
Not
Not
bad
bad.
going, not bad going. Uh-oh, third time unlucky. I'm not going to be booking any guests now for the next year. I ain't going there. I ain't going there. Nah, you see, we've bounced back up the rabbit hole now, but not that far that we can't see the gnomes. And we haven't forgotten we're on Freaky Friday. We're going back there. That was a trip down memory lane, though, Scott. That was nostalgic. We've had whistles tonight. We've had the ambassador and Rothgate. Shh.
Yeah, it's those echoes of the past that come to
Isn't it?
remind you.
I hope that we're not set for a kind of repeat of the past in one of these cases. That's all I will say. So with that said, I'm going to read out a random story that nobody's read before next. It could take us anywhere. No, it won't be random. This comes from our good friend Luna. So if we come over here, we're sticking on little people. It says the deletion of Australian pygmies from history, an example of Judeo-globalist attack on whites and science. So it goes on to say here.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah, this could be a bit. This could be a little bit. This could. Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think this could be a little bit.
I don't know if the algorithm is going to like this.
Well, I'm not too sure, to be honest with you.
I saw somebody's name.
Yeah, Luna. Yeah, the character who comes at the top of this is a very, very infamous name. Yes, well for verboten on here, on YouTube, obviously. Look. Will we pluck another story from See how we almost set ourselves up for another gate there?
See?
Yeah.
There we go. It was like that.
Okay, now Luna says there's another one now. Hang on, wait till I go back to Discord. There we go. Right, let's see. Let me see what this one says. Finding elusive little people. Loving it. We're in there already. Thank you, Luna. Thank you. There we go. Yes, indeedy. Here we go then. And this takes us back down under, dude. So this is what we're talking about. So this comes from Charles Darwin University in Australia. So it says, finding the elusive little people. Tales of fairies, elves, and little people are common folklore around the world, but despite their ubiquity, they are rarely seen. Their names differ, but beliefs passed across generations are rich with stories that feature these elusive beings. South Africans talk of the Tekaloshi, the evil dwarf-like spirits. Hawaiians have forest-dwelling Menehune, and Irish people speak of the mischievous, and may I emphasize, the Irish speak. Doc Miller, are you listening? Leprechaun. Senior lecturer at the Aboriginal Studies, Dr. Curtis Roman, has examined the beliefs about little people from an Indigenous Australian perspective. Growing up in Darwin, on Australia's Northern Territory, Dr. Roman is a Larrakia man and first heard about little people when he was a young boy. These Indigenous people are known to avoid certain places, wipe their sweat on bushes, and not cook meat at night because their intrinsic belief about little people. That's fascinating, dude. This is not new to me. It is part of who I am, he said. He's been gathering stories of Indigenous people who live in Darwin and examining their beliefs and the consistencies around the appearance of the little people. Now, it says, and their beliefs are diverse. Dr. Roman said indigenous people were known to avoid certain places, wipe their sweat on bushes, and not cook meat at night because of their intrinsic beliefs about little people. It isn't a bogeyman story to frighten them, he said. Usually these stories are told by parents and grandparents and other older relatives who have much more credibility. So when people hear these stories, they fully accept them. Little people have many local names, but the depiction conjured is strikingly consistent among Aboriginal cultures. They're described as standing knee-high, pungent in smell, and hairy in appearance. Little people are also inherently ugly. I know I've got a radio face, but there's no need to go that far, Scott, and I'm only slightly hairy. Research has shown little people don't like to be looked in the face, Dr. Roman said. They are very sensitive to how ugly they are, and looking at them can make them angry. Despite the negative narrative, little people are not considered to be necessarily evil or troublesome tricksters. The last time I read out this bit, it came later on in the story, Scott, didn't it? So it says, little people are guardians or protectors of the land. They often take on different forms, are considered shapeshifters. Now, let's stop there then. Let's stop there, because that opens up a cornucopia of things, right? Because if they can shapeshift, do they always have to remain small?
I don't know.
Because if they don't have to remain small, Scott, I'm going to offer this as a potential theory for Bigfoot. They're actually dwarfs. They're actually gnomes. They're actually little people.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's why they run away, because they're scared in case they change back into their tiny form and they get chased by the big giant thing they've just been looking at a minute ago.
Oh, like a defense.
It's a long one. Yeah, dude, it's like a defense mechanism, man. I like it.
They can shapeshift into something bigger to appear more menacing. Maybe, who knows?
After a few of those mushrooms, that's going to sound so much better, Scott. You're going to go with it. You're going to find evidence of it. I'm telling you.
Oh yeah.
We're there.
Go. Yeah.
Some of the stories were scary encounters, while others suggested that little people were guardian angels, Dr. Roman said. A consistent belief is, if you're in your own country, they usually won't bother you. But if you are harming or stealing the land, then you may face the wrath of the little people. They are guardians or protectors of the land. To avoid being seen, Dr. Roman said little people often took on different forms and were considered shapeshifters. There are stories about them changing into human form of a deceased relative, or into animals, into rocks, or into trees. I've also heard about them changing into small lights that move through the air. Well, there's our little orbs that we're talking about, dude. Tiwi Islander Elizabeth Heenan is one of the many indigenous people who has shared their belief and experiences with Dr. Roman. We call out to our ancestors to protect us. Little people can confuse you and make you lost in the mangroves. They can make you deaf and blind, Ms. Heenan said, and little people can steal your soul.
Whoa.
That's a bit wild, isn't that, right?
Yeah. You don't want to.
This is the same as this, but you... What's that, Scotty?
Said you don't want to anger the wrong little person.
No. So it wasn't until I was a teenager that I believed in them, she said. Now that's interesting, because typically you would expect younger children. I'm thinking, like, the majority of the world would think we're mad even talking about this right now. I get that this is a reality to people. So, most people would expect young children to believe in, like, fairies and things like that, Scott. But then maybe move away from it over time. But this, when you've got that connection to everything around you, you know, you start to appreciate it all the older you get. Like a teenager starts to see all the things they're connected to all around. That's interesting. It's almost like it's almost as if we condition our young to, we really almost knock it out of them to stop using their imagination and really being open, you know?
Yeah, as you know, here in, at least in the US or, you know, Western society or whatever, children are taught to not talk about a lot of that stuff as they get older, or see it as just fairy tales or something that was fake or their imagination or something like that. Whereas here we're talking about people that continue to learn and appreciate it. And like you said, as they get older, they seem to be able to make the connections and embrace it. So that is pretty cool. And like I said, I mean, it goes back to what I was talking about earlier, where children just seem to be opened up to this stuff more often, you know, that children can see these things. And I think the route that we should be taking is to not tell kids to suppress that stuff or tell them that it's fake or imaginary, but to embrace it and to connect with it. And I think that's part of that returning to nature stuff and all of that stuff that we have forgotten over time, and that we've allowed technology and a lot of the constructs of society that we have put ourselves into to dictate and kind of like suppress all of that. So yeah, pretty cool. So this person didn't believe in it as a child, but as she got older or whatever, she came to appreciate it and realize that there's probably something to it.
See that quantum entanglement, Scott? We start talking about Australian woo, and Mammoth comes trampling into the arena here. Good to see you, Mammoth. Yes, you've been missing some top-notch woo today. Oh my lordy. The little people woo has been off the little people charts. But it goes on to say here, it wasn't until I was a teenager I believed in them, she said. In the Yolgnu world. Yolgnu, yeah. Little people are Walatha. And they protect us from bad things and people. I'm probably going to get laughed at by all these Australians. I see Rotman in the chat room, Luna's in there, Donnie's in there. Oh, dear Lord. Now living in Darwin, Miss Mutha Mula Wui said she experienced little... I think I got that one right, Scott.
I think you did.
Don't ask me to do it again. Don't ask me to do it again. But I think I did. It's the inner Australian... It's the Bruce coming at me, mate. Mrs. Mutha Mama Louie. I got it again, man. See? Said that she experienced little people firsthand about 10 years ago when a sick relative was healed. Walatha will sometimes appear as a person you were close to. Now, they are very shy and don't like to be seen, and they will alert me to danger or warn me of unwelcome news. Little people are our guardian angels. Dr. Roman will publish his findings in an international journal and use it as a basis for a wide-ranging manuscript of indigenous beliefs algorithm.
For all voodoo, Kev Baker and Scotty are a good lurk.
Great lurk. I tell you, we're best if you're working on something or doing something productive. Lurking to Freaky Friday makes some great background woo, Scott. It does.
Yes, the chatter and the topics that are going on in the background will tickle your brain while you work away. No doubt.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now we're almost there, Scott. What a night this has been, right?
Wow.
We've had
It's been
Headless Horseman of Sleepy Hollow. That seems like weeks ago we talked about that now. With Johnny Whistles turning up. We had
yes.
we had 60 little people in 30 cars with yellow tights and big beards, wrinkly faces, and one definitely looked like Popeye.
Why am I for some reason like that whole story invokes the whole clown car thing with me. I don't know why, but I think of like those tiny clown cars and like 50 clowns coming out of the car,
Yeah.
It would just be so bizarre to see a convoy of gnomes in tiny little cars.
And then for it to make the national news. And even more bizarre, we've never heard of that before. Now you'd think if there was anyone out there that's heard of a story like that, it'd be these pair of rockets, right?
Only that kind of story would be something that we would dig up and get into, but hey.
Not even just get into it with such fervor, Scott. Really, wow, getting right into it, man, until they were honking their horns and it was all going a bit crazy, man.
Hey, but it's good to know that there were other people on the case, and was it Lonnie Strickland?
Lon Strickland, yeah, man. Legend of a guy. You just
Strickland.
reminded me. I've got the perfect story to take us out. Oh, hang on. Oh, now we've got another story coming in from Kevin. The Native American beliefs in little people. Aha! Let me bring this over to here then. Hey, there we go. So, it says here that stories and religious beliefs about little people are common to many, if not most, Native American, Paleo-American, if you will, tribes in the West. Such tribes such as the Umatilla of Oregon referred to them as stick Indians, while the Nez Perce called them Isteyaha. Isteyaha? I'd say so. In 1804,
Yeah.
in 1804, the Lewis and Clark expedition stayed for a time with a band of Witchyena Scott.
Yeah, Gina Sue.
Yeah, Witchyena Sioux on the Vermilion River. I got that one. In modern-day South Dakota. On August 25th, Meriwether Lewis, William Clark, and 10 other men travelled 9 miles, 14 kilometres. At least it wasn't 0.66 miles again, Scott, right? North of the river's junction with the Missouri River to see the mountain of the little people. Now, when you've got people native to the land calling it a big mountain, the mountain of the little people, that suggests to me they probably came from there. So Lewis wrote in his journal that the little people were devals, and that's Deavals, devils, with very large heads, about 18 inches, 46 centimetres high, and very alert to any intrusions into their territory. The Sioux said that the devils carried sharp arrows which could strike at very long distance, and they killed anyone who approached their mound. The little people, so terrified. The local population, Lewis reported, that the Maha, the Omaha, and the Oto, and Sioux would not go near the place. The Lakota people who came to live near the Spirit Mound after the Witchyena Sioux have a story no more than 250 years old, which describes how a band of 350 warriors came near the mound late at night and were nearly wiped out by the ferocious little people. That doesn't do anything for your like tribe cred to go making stories up about getting taken out by little people. You know?
You know what this makes me think of? Remember the stuff that Jason brought to the table?
Yep.
And
Remember he had one with the he had one with the bow, remember? That's the one I used for the thumbnail.
Yeah, and they had those fierce teeth, and they were real like animalistic and like barbaric, and that it took the tribes to like unite and have a war with them to defeat them. I wonder if these are the same little entities that we're talking about here.
Talking of little entities. More emails, man. Come on, man. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. So it says the crow, or Absaroki, were originally part of the Hidatsa and Siouan people who lived and settled agricultural life along the Missouri River in what is now western North Dakota, sometime prior to the mid-17th century, and the Hidatsa leader, No Vitals, led a large number of Hidatsa went into the Yellowstone River Valley of south central Montana, where the tribe lived on the plains by the river and in the nearby Bighorn, Pryor, and Wolf Mountains. On the move due to pressure from eastern and midwestern tribes moving west due to white encroachment, the Crow may have settled in the Yellowstone Valley only a few decades before the arrival of Lewis and Clark. A fundamental tenet of Crow religion was Maxpe, or the sacred. I'm going to save that because there's a lot more there. I have had an absolute blast today, Scott Lopez. An absolute blast.
Absolutely fantastic. And yeah, that website is going to provide a nice treasure trove of you for us in the future, I think.
Stay tuned. Brent Thomas on the way. Wherever you are, make it TFR. There we go. There we go. This website that we found, just to give people an idea. Is it that? No, I think it was this one here. I had the actual unicorns loaded up at one point. Well, I'll pull the website up just to show people what this is like. This is like crazy full of stuff, man. Myths, legends, folk life, child lore, spring, ghosts and apparitions. Top 5 feminist ghosts.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Woke ghosts.
Woke, the white hind of hope, rag trees, blessed fish, and blind horses. Holy wells in Ireland. We've never talked about holy wells in Ireland. Ruth Tongue and the Chime Child. That looks terrifying.
We've mentioned the wells
With
in
Jason,
Ireland before.
Have we?
But yeah, because wasn't it believed that there was some kind of that the wells were basically like a portal to the underworld, remember? So
It's a piece of woo that escapes me, Scott. Yep.
it's okay. It's okay because I mean we've only briefly touched on it. That's probably why it's not. But I do remember a little bit of discussion around that. So that could send us down an interesting rabbit hole.
Or a well hole. It could send us down a well hole.
Yes.
Mammoth. You better. Me and Scott are both offended at you showing up so late like that. So you must listen to the whole show to get the full effect of me and Scott losing it when we get to 60 dwarfs and a bunch of cars. That's all I'm going to say. You know.
The dwarven convoy was too much. I could not control my my laughter. Just picturing that in my head was
Carvids. I'm being very careful how I say that word. So it sounds totally different from something else in lore and legend. You get it, people. You get it. And I hope you all understand out there when myself and Scott didn't go with the first Luna story. It's not that we don't agree with anything that was presented in that story. It's that the algorithm wouldn't agree with it. So, you know, top 5 Romanian folk tales. Now, we've never had Romanian woo. Nah.
Isn't that old?
Is that Transylvania neck of the woods, though?
That's Transylvania neck of the woods right there.
Well, Dracula's going to be one of them, maybe. What's the other 4? The mind boggles, dude. More emails. The top 5 magical... I'm feeling a bit of... I'm feeling a bit... Yeah, I'm feeling a bit kind of triggered here. I'm feeling a bit like something's gone on. Mixing animals, birds, humans, and gods in Celtic mythology. Fascinating. 5 extraordinary goddesses, so even the animals get in there before men.
No.
Skogsra and Huldra, the femme fatale of the Scandinavian forests. They would have me in a blonde Nordics, big blonde Swedes in the forest, screaming like mountain goats. Scott, I'm running towards that. Andy's right. I'm running right towards it, man.
That's how Kev becomes a missing 411. He just sees I'm
a simple man to disappear, Scott.
a tall Nordic beauty standing out in the forest, and Kev's like, "Do you need some help? Can I be of assistance?"
Oh, yes, you can. I can't wait. What is this? The Gabbar Geeker. The Gabbar Geeker. What the hell? Racism and folklore. This is a woke thing, isn't it? This is woke, isn't it? Yeah.
I think it's a little woke, but...
And Nancy the spider. What? Trickster, not the spider teacher. No, the octopus teacher I can handle, but no man should be getting taught anything of a spider. Right?
Some good stuff, though.
I was just seeing somebody talking about something in the chat room. I was being nosy, Scott. I was being nosy.
Look at Kev.
Unicorn lore. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Look, why? Why? Interpreting the lady in the unicorn. What? Could, might be a dude dressed in a dress. How do you know? You know what I'm saying? If you're going to be woke, you got to go the whole way, not just the tip. So, digital literacy. Its application. That's not so fun. The Firebird. This is looking good, though, right? Looking good. Oh, clown panics in computers. What? Ah, right, because that helps to propagate the almost meme, and then people start taking it on.
Chaos manifests in the age of the internet. But you could also chalk that up to tulpamancy and all of that stuff as well. So.
Hunting for unicorns, man. Scotland is one of few nations to have chosen a mythological creature rather than a real one as our national, as like our totem. Yeah. National animal, and probably the only nation to have chosen an animal that no one believed actually lived there. Unless you're Scottish. Because Scotland's national animal it's the unicorn. It is. There you go, Scotty. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's one to get dropped into there. Definitely. So, big man, what are your plans for the weekend? Anything nice planned?
Just chilling and trying to stay warm because it just decided to get really, really cold all of a sudden. So we went from summer to winter pretty much We don't really have falls or springs in Kansas. It just kind of goes from one extreme to the other. So they're even talking about some snow at the beginning of next week. So yeah, just gonna be hanging out, chilling, doing a little gaming and a little bit of PPP and
Big bit
you know how it
PPP,
goes.
is it? Big bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Big wee.
Well, you know, yeah.
Emails, man.
Is there a way
It,
to just turn comments off on that story?
But then it'll stop. It'll only be stopped for a couple of days. I'll just start again.
Hmm. Interesting.
That's where I get raided by the feds and they say, Mr. Baker, look what's been going on this article. There's been people getting radicalized on here.
Can you disable comments on that
I probably
particular?
could, actually. Scott, now you look, come on, man.
Come on, man.
Logic, dude. Come on. Don't steal away my imagination of what could be going on in the Matrix.
You know what it is, Kev?
It's a message to myself from the future. That's what it is, man.
It's two AIs talking to each other using your comment section on that particular story to gain sentience. They're learning and they're discussing amongst themselves.
Two digital versions of Geordie.
Ooh.
He uploaded himself, man.
You think it's just random bots?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just weird. It's just our brains want to make more of something than there. That's exactly what's going on with that one. I fully accept my imagination goes wild, but just must be something that somebody's dropped a little biscuit or a tracker or something on that one at some point. And, I mean, I don't really know much about how internet works, like that kind of stuff, code and all of it.
Some bot or something must have scraped that from search results.
Before it's news.
Call the and maybe spider crawlers. That's what they call them. Those.
What did you say, spider?
I never expected Trump charging into a goblin's nest to not get some goblin vomit and slop and blood on him. I don't want to see him kissing goblins. Spider goats are at least 25 years old.
Spider goat is close.
Spider goats, Kev. They've found your website.
They have. They're populating it. Yeah, digital spider goats. I don't think McAfee's got anything to get rid of them. They don't have protection from the digital spider goats yet. Maybe we should get him on. Maybe we should get him on one Friday, dude. He'd be pretty good woo. John McAfee. He's woo, man.
Yeah.
He's got it off his head, dude. Like, that'd be some tech woo you could get into there. You could realistically ask him, what does the top AI look like? Come on, John. You've had a glimpse. Something sent you over the edge.
Opportunity to party one night with John McAfee, would you?
Oh, absolutely. But would it last just one night, Scott?
It's the question. That is the question.
The big man would be thinking, what? We've only just warmed up. You know? Look at us just sitting here, just talking away on YouTube. People have got homes to go to. If you're in the UK, you've probably got a bed to go to. Thank you all for being here today. I have had Freaky Friday, dude. Just keeps getting better week on week. Don't know how we do it.
Yeah, we keep
people out there are saying, no, it doesn't, boys. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
I can tell you the 60 gnomes love this show.
Exactly. There's 60 gnomes right now that are like, you see, we finally got the validation and the respect that they deserve.
Respect. Now, I think we should just play a random song to go out today, and I found one called "A Hand in a Dark Place." We'll give it a blast, man. Here we go. Hang on then. Let's see what happens here. Here we go. We'll gently break us into it. This has got a bit of a Freaky Friday feel to it, man, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'll be back on Sunday anyway. Definitely we'll have the members stream on Sunday. I'll have warrior mode on Sunday. Keep an eye open tomorrow though, because you never know. And Scott, before we go, I made my Twitch debut, man. Made my Twitch debut, dude. 7 people. Hey!
Did you?
Myself and Verboten Chick Robinson. Yes, we were on there just chatting. I didn't realize so many people use Twitch for like what we do, talking.
Yeah, Twitch isn't just for gaming. I mean, it is a streaming platform, and yeah.
Maybe we'll do the Simo next Friday. We'll go out to the 2 of them, man.
Maybe.
Yeah. Can't
Sounds
harm.
like
Yeah. I'm liking this music, dude.
Here.
Isn't there? Isn't there? Keep your mind open. Keep looking for the woo, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo. What? Black goo? Black goo? Hashtag Black Goo Mars.